Chair Borders,
Present.
Vice Chair Crone, Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner DeChristopher, Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner Preston, Commissioner Pizel. A quorum is present.
Thank you. Commissioner Peterson, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
Please, yes, thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The public is invited at this time to provide comment on any topic that relates to any matter over which this public body has supervision, control, jurisdiction, or advisory powers, including any such item that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. No action will be taken on any matter raised during this period for public comment. Is there any public comment at this time?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager for Carson City Public Works. I wanted to take this opportunity to let the Planning Commission know, and those in the audience here as well and on television, that Carson City Public Works, in coordination with the Carson Area MPO, have kicked off our North Carson Complete Streets Study. You've probably seen that out there in the press. I just wanted to take this opportunity to let you all know that we have a survey active at carsonproud.com, as well as a comment map in which you can pick on little dots and drop them onto the map and then write in your words the issues and concerns that you have for the North Carson Street corridor. It's a way for us to gather feedback and use that feedback in developing what the North Carson Street corridor should look like as we start developing alternatives and design concepts over the next 15 or so months. Ultimately, for the North Carson Street project, we don't have funding for construction identified, so we don't even have funding for design currently identified. So we're working through the feasibility. What should we build in that area, working with utility companies, different agencies within in the area, including city departments and businesses in the area as well. And today we walked up and down all of North Carson Street from William Street to Medical Parkway, visited each and every business that was open, dropped off flyers, let them know what we were doing, collected contact information, trying to get the word out about North Carson Street, getting feedback for that. The survey will be live for probably the next couple of weeks, probably through about May 22nd, in which case we're going to start compiling that. There will be more public outreach opportunities this fall, so look for that, and I may be back at this commission to provide you details and updates related to that effort when we get to that point in the future. Until then, thank you.
Can you, before you go, would you say that website again, please, so that people can find it?
Absolutely. It's at carsonproud.com. We also have a flyer that we can leave on the back table. It is the same fact sheet that's posted on our website, but I can leave some copies there. carsonproud.com is our site.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Any further public comment?
Hello, Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. While I know I'm not at the wrong meeting, I'm not at open space, I know I'm at the Planning Commission, I would like to bring up a subject that I think new to myself, might be new to you, and I think in future when you add conditions onto things, you might consider these articles and what you can find as far as the initial journal that was written in 2008 by Thomas Kuntz. Kuns. The article I found was in the Smithsonian. It's a 2005. It's September, October edition. And it suggests that we have a whole new ecosystem or environmental consideration, which is the sky, the air between our ground and our lack of out of our atmosphere. And those studies have shown that there's a whole ecosystem in itself. And that as we grow, we need to consider those ecosystems just as much as we do the land we build on and the area that we're building in, heat spots, other considerations. Right now, I'd like to suggest that everybody listen to the comments of the news recently that we need to dim our lights because migration's in the works and our lights pollute and cause issues with their migration patterns. So that was brought up by the Reno community. The Reno community also is suggesting they're looking to build a bigger base for tree growth. They're acknowledging the need for the shade, the cooling aspects of it, and I would encourage any landscaping that you're approving include trees if possible, as far as their locations and such, so please do that. But this particular study is suggesting that the science isn't necessarily new. 2008 is some time ago, but it's been upgraded, and the findings are amazing. It's like if you get a bit of water out of a pond, the life in it, if you look under a microscope, is amazing. And you don't know that as you splash your hand through it and stick it in your mouth or hurt your face with it. I probably wouldn't have done that. But the deal is that this is something that should be considered in everything you do from here on. So I appreciate that you've listened to this, and I would encourage you to read the article if you can find it. It's called Life in the Air, and it's started by saying, the sky above, I'm sorry, I'm out of time, but it's an ecosystem of its own, and the new science is called ecology. So please look into it. I think it will inform you in ways that may not relate to your particular things, but I think it's interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? Okay, hearing none. For item 5A, possible action to approve the minutes of March 25th, 2026. They were in your packet. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Yes, I would like to note under item 6G, in the motion, the action was for a request to rezone, and the motion indicates that it was, the initial motion was moved to approve the special use permit. That should be a rezoning as opposed to special use permit.
One more time, if you would.
Item 6G,
Okay, all right.
the
It's
motion.
on page 10, right?
That's correct. And it should be, it's a rezoning request, and the motion indicates that I move to approve a special use permit.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
All right, it's a motion by Commissioner Pizell. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Commissioner DeChristopher. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6A for discussion only. Presentation on Carson City Airport and its economic impacts by Mr. Corey Jenkins.
Before Corey goes, I just want to give some context on this. I want to introduce Corey Jenkins. Corey
All right.
Jenkins is our airport manager. And Corey and I sat down a couple weeks ago because I've been trying to meet with different people who are involved in economic development in the city. And the airport clearly is a player in that. I didn't realize how big a player it was. I also didn't realize a lot of the history of the airport. The airport also, and this might be obvious, but has a lot of impact on land use. Because as we consider the land surrounding the airport, we have to make sure that we're not allowing land uses that will compromise the functionality of the airport. In fact, the city has signed grant applications with the FAA and other groups where we've made a commitment not to create conflicts. So after meeting with Corey, one, he's just really impressive, and you're about to see that if you haven't sat with him and talked. But you're going to learn a lot about the airport, and I think it's going to help the Planning Commission as you look at projects surrounding the airport and we think about land use around the airport, because we have to really think hard about that compatibility. There really isn't an opportunity to compromise. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Corey.
Okay. All right, thank you, Hope. So I'm Corey Jenkins, Airport Manager, Carson City Airport. Today, we're going to talk about economic development, but to understand the economic impact of the airport and why Carson City Airport is such a successful example of a city's utilization of aviation, we have to look at the history of the airport and how it became this enormous asset for Carson City. And whenever you look at airports across the state, you see Reno Tahoe and you see Las Vegas. You know, the Reno Tahoe Authority and then the Department of Aviation in Clark County. They fully utilize aviation across the board, both in commercial and general aviation. And other places in the state, you don't really see that. But in Carson City, going back in history from the beginning, the city did a fantastic job of recognizing the asset that aviation was going to be. And we're going to kind of get into that. We're going to start with that history and then we'll get into current day. So the airport was first established in 1928. The land, all the land at the airport was donated by prominent local families for the specific purpose of supporting manufacturing and economic growth in the city. The airport was expanded in the 1940s and the 1950s. Additional land was donated. A new runway was created. There's a rich history of aviation in Carson. This is a photo from 1919, predating the airport, of the first aircraft that flew over the Sierras. There is a plaque somewhere along Highway 50 that recognizes this flight. I've personally never seen it. I need to get out there and find it. Here's a photo from that early time period, the first building that was built out at the airport, the Carson Flying Service, where they this is the first FBO, fixed base operator, which we're going to get into that a little bit and what that is. This photo right here is really interesting. So this is from the 1970s. And early 1970s, Carson City actually passed, they created the Aviation Industrial Park. And that is all the land north of the airport. And in this photo, in the bottom right-hand corner, you can kind of start to see the beginning of the development of that industrial park. This was a requirement of the families that donated land to the airport for it to be available to manufacturers, to attract manufacturers to Carson City. And it absolutely achieved that goal. And we're going to look at more at that in more detail. But I want to make that point. This didn't start today. This started a long time ago, and Carson City saw the value of aviation really early. It takes a long time and a lot of forethought to make this happen. The Airport Authority Act of 1989 created the Carson City Airport Authority, which established the governance structure for the airport. We have a red line agreement between Carson City and the Airport Authority, which transfers management of the operations to the Airport Authority and provides a mechanism for the exchange of resources. This is from like 1990 here, and we can start to see those manufacturing companies get developed on the northwest side of the airport there. Cubics Corporation played a big role in this early days, and other companies that utilize aviation assets. We'll talk more about some of those specific companies. This is a more recent photo as we see more continued development. You know, when people talk about the airport, you typically hear airplanes, hangars. You don't hear manufacturers. And we're going to get into that. The Airport Authority itself, the members are appointed by the Board of Supervisors. Membership consists of one city official, one citizen at large, one pilot representative, two manufacturers. That's an important component. It's required that two manufacturers from Carson City be on the board. In lieu of that, a citizen at large can be appointed if they don't apply. But early on, they wanted two manufacturers on the board because they play such a big role in the airport and what it is for the city. And then two fixed base operators. First master plan was created in 2001, and the airport received approximately $25 million in federal funding. The authority accomplished runway improvements, taxiway improvements, land leases for private development of new hangar construction, and the current master plan that we're operating under was created in 2020. This is a good photo of the realignment of the runway, which was a major project. This happens every once in a while, usually because the prominent winds change and runways need to be realigned. But this was a major project out at the airport. This is an airport layout plan directly pulled from the master plan. There's been a lot of updates to this since this one was published, but you can kind of see what the future next 15 years or so should potentially look like. All the yellow areas are potential hangar development, and we've already developed a lot of that. We've got hangars popping up left and right up there, and this is primarily driven by an increase in turboprop and jet activity, not just in Carson City, but across the United States. Whenever COVID happened, it kind of triggered this change that we see in aviation across the board. And that is companies that can afford their own aviation assets have decided to go ahead and purchase their own aviation assets. So there's more and more companies out there that now have these airplanes. These are not aviation companies. They're just companies that own their own aviation assets. And there is about a 10% increase year over year of production of turboprop and jet aircraft for this corporate customer. And it doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon. Carson City has capitalized on this opportunity to attract companies to Carson City. Again, we're not talking about their airplanes, we're talking about the company. And we'll get into specific companies in a couple of slides. Some recent projects that we've accomplished to make the airport more appealing and safer for the general public. We've acquired some new snow removal equipment, a new plow, a new tractor attachment. We are also about to complete construction on a new SRE building, which y'all can see off College Parkway. Future projects are primarily focused around safety improvements at the airport. A big one that took a very long time, this is 3 separate federal projects to get to this point of constructing this. This started out as a survey and a study, and then design, and then construction. And this is the design and installation of additional approach lighting, specifically the Precision Approach Path Indicators, PAPI. This is one of the results of that study, which is just really interesting, where they've highlighted all these potential obstacles for aviation. This is how expansive that study was. This is an interesting photo of the instrument approach airspace leading into Carson City. The instrument approach actually starts well into Dayton. So if you're over by 6 Mile Canyon area in Dayton, Nevada, that's kind of where the approach starts. And this is what it looks like coming in. What we have in Carson City is called a modified straight-in approach. It's typically you would have a straight-in approach where the approach is straight in off the edge of the runway, and ours is not. It's this modified straight-in approach. So what we've done is we've installed this offset PAPI, which is visible on the approach when you're coming in on that angle down that valley. And then it transitions to the straight-in PAPI off the end. And what this does is it makes it to where the pilots can see the airport well before they're straight off the end of the runway. When they turn final, it's actually pretty close to the airport. So previously to this, they didn't have that light giving them that approach. Now that we've completed that project, it can be seen well into Dayton.
Scott, is that like a VASI light?
It's like a VASI. VASI is different type of precision approach. PAPI is not as precise as a VASI.
Okay.
This is kind of what the final product looks like. The PAPIs themselves in the bottom left-hand corner of this. You have a straight in and then you have the offset. And this is what that looks like from the ground. It's really not that exciting to look at these small little lights whenever it took 5 years to get to the point of creating this. But I'll tell you, flying that instrument approach is fascinating. How the engineers designed this system is really fascinating. And to see it from an airplane is really, really cool. And definitely, it makes the airport safer for the flying public and the general public. Additional projects, pavement rehab, there's a lot of pavement out there, something we're always working on, and runway extension. The runway extension is directly something targeting that turboprop and jet customer, an airport user. This project is not designed around attracting a different classification of aircraft. This is to accommodate the existing traffic that we have today. We're a high altitude airport. And in high altitudes and high temperatures, you have what's called a high density altitude, where the aircraft are trying to operate in an environment that is the equivalent of like 7,000 to 8,000 feet or potentially higher. What this does is it makes it to where these turboprop and jet aircraft have to depart with less fuel or less cargo on board. That is a potential safety hazard because if they are overweight, they might be in a bad situation. And the goal of this is a safety project to make it to where the airport's safer for that customer. We are a very interesting airport. We have a lot of based aircraft in Carson City. We have more based aircraft here than anywhere else in the state. Mostly single engine aircraft, 328, 52 multi-engine, 23 jets, and 14 helicopters is about what we have right now. The operations numbers, the annual takeoffs and landings, is an approximation. It's not, we don't know the exact number, but it's estimated to be about 86,000 annual operations per year. The airport has an interesting trend right now. We're trending down in airport operations annually, but our fuel sales are trending up. So what's happening is we're getting more jets and turboprops, and the general aviation small airplane is flying less. And that definitely tracks with what the market is doing across the United States. You can kind of see the breakdown of that, 7,500 air taxi. That number is probably a lot higher than that now. The charter activity is really active. We have a Challenger 300 on the South Ramp right now that's coming and going from the airport on a regular basis, and that's a really interesting aircraft. And that's a charter operation. I don't know who's using it, but somebody is chartering in and out of the airport regularly with that particular company. We've always had a good bit of charter activity at the airport, but that's a growing market. 38,500 local general aviation. That's primarily the number that's decreasing right now. The small single engine general aviation airplane is getting more and more difficult to operate. Maintenance costs, just general operation costs, storage costs. When we talk about hangar development at the airport, it's for jets and turboprops. It's not for this small single engine general aviation customer. You don't see any developers building for that market because that's a declining market. It's just really interesting. Our operations are going to continue to decrease as that happens. Jets and turboprops fly for a particular mission. They're not flying just for the fun of it. They're very expensive to operate. So the companies that own and operate these aircraft are flying them for the specific mission. So they're not going to be lingering in the airspace. They're not going to be flying all the time. They might have this aircraft, this big jet, this big expensive jet that sits in the hangar for a considerable period of time, which is great for the city because that jet represents jobs. It jet represents companies and the people and everything it takes to operate the aircraft, but more importantly, to operate the company that thing is attached to. And we have a few military operations, not many. The funding model for the airport. So we receive federal funding for pretty much all of our projects. We are a part of the National Plan of Integrated Airport Systems. So we are a part of the aviation plan for the entire country. There's a lot that comes with that. The planning for that is not just what you would think of, commuter traffic. This is emergency preparedness. This is military preparedness. In the really bad flood that happened here in '97, I believe, it shut off access to Carson City. And the only way supplies were coming and going from Carson City was military aircraft coming in and out of Carson City Airport. And that is a part of being a part of that NIPIA system. We're a regional reliever airport. So we're a high-capacity general aviation facility that is in place to alleviate the congested hub airports, which in our case is Reno International. The Airport Improvement Program is the program that we receive federal funding through the FAA, and we receive funding and we have to make a match with 6.25%. The airport must continuously meet the grant assurances attached to those grants. And, you know, that's not just the airport, that is the airport and the city must continuously meet the grant assurance requirements. And potentially, if we don't, we are at risk of losing future funding. Worst case scenario is we actually have to pay funding back that we would have received. One of those grant assurance requirements is protecting the airspace. So that is what Hope was referring to earlier. There's an actual grant assurance requirement in place where the city has to protect the airspace around the airport, which is in everyone's best interest. Sources of income for the airport leases, real personal property taxes. Whenever I started in Carson City, we were about $700,000 annual income. Now we're at about $1 million a year in income. And this is another indication of the change of the type of traffic, the type of aircraft that we have at the airport. New leases coming on board, the higher property value of jets and turboprops. There's other small income. These don't add up to much in comparison to the others. But we do have a fuel flowage fee, 5 cents per gallon, and other miscellaneous fees that we charge. Economic impact. This is kind of a data dump. I'm not really going to get into that slide. We'll talk about this one here. This is from a 2022 study from the Nevada Airport and Heliport System Plan. The state of Nevada does a study periodically, and they update these numbers. Back in 2022, we saw that the airport contributed to total employment of 1,361 jobs. So that includes jobs at the airport and off airport. So this is considering the manufacturing companies that moved to Carson because they have aviation assets and they wanted their aircraft to be based in Carson and not one of these other cities where they're not supporting their airports like Carson City is supporting ours. And we have an enormous impact there. That number is significantly higher today than it was in 2022. And some of the companies that I'm going to talk about coming up, we'll get into some of their employment numbers that they've brought just in the past few years. Labor income, 78,727,500. Total output, 251,350,280. Unfortunately, they don't really define what those numbers mean very well. I would like to see the state improve the definition of what that means exactly, and the next time they do this study. But it definitely goes to show the airport is huge when it comes to economic development and economic impact. Again, I'm going to skip some of the specific stuff. So kind of where we're at today. So the city created this dedicated industrial air park in early 1970s. That brought thriving businesses to Carson City. And now we have ongoing hangar development, which is new businesses continuing to come to Carson City. And we have strong economic growth, which we can see by looking at that study that the state did. So a little bit about these companies. ClickBond. ClickBond is one of the bigger contributors to the airport and has been around for a very long time. ClickBond is a global leader in aerospace and industrial fasteners. Their headquarters and manufacturing is right here in Carson City, and their leadership includes pilots. The CEO is a pilot himself. He flies one of their citations regularly. They utilize the airport for quick shipments, quick supplier visits. They are traveling all over the United States on a regular basis, and they're coming and going from Carson City Airport. ClickBond did not have to build in Carson City, and they definitely would not have if the city hadn't established this industrial air park in the 1970s. Here's a photo of one of their hangars and one of their aircraft parked in front of it. They have multiple aviation assets, and their fleet is growing regularly. And this is an interesting company. You know, we talk about them making aircraft parts, but they're not seeing customers on the airport. They're not a fixed base operator. They're a manufacturer building a component where their aviation assets are for their use. They're not serving an aviation customer. They own these airplanes for their own use. Some other companies, Rocket EMS. So this company here is one of the more recent companies that has come to Carson City. They're a high-tech electronics manufacturer, and they base turboprop at the airport, but they also have other aviation assets across the United States. And they're flying in and out on a regular basis. One thing that's interesting about them is they have high-skill staff that they'll actually fly in and out of Carson City on almost a daily basis. They have high-skill staff that's based in Southern California and other places, and they will be coming in and out of Carson regularly. Aviation is a requirement for their business model, and they are not seeing an aviation customer. This is a company that's here. Their employment numbers are extremely impressive. They brought in over 300 employees to Carson City, so they weren't even a part of that 1,300 number. So we're probably well over 2,000 employees in Carson City that are a part of companies that have these aviation assets, and they wouldn't be in Carson if it wasn't for the airport. And not just the airport. You know, there's a lot of airports across Nevada, but we have a good airport that's been supported by the city historically and is a nice place to be. So this is a place where they want to be. Redwood Materials is another example. They have their headquarters right here in Carson City. And again, they have assets all over the United States. And they are here, and their headquarters shares a fence line with the airport. They have multiple aviation assets that they utilize for their staff. They're building a big facility in Reno right now, which I was hoping they would build in Carson, but they're getting an aircraft that's simply just too big for Carson City, and that's just all there is to that. But they're going to continue to have other aviation assets in Carson. Another good example is a company, US Pump and Power, that is a company moving out of Canada. They looked at developing a manufacturing facility anywhere in the United States. They settled in Carson City. The CEO personally flew to airports all around the country to check them out. And, you know, I met him. I was the airport manager at the time he was doing this. And he came to Carson City, and he's decided to move his company to Carson City. And that's because he wants to have a good airport. He wants to be in a state that supports manufacturers. And Nevada was the right place. And then Carson City Airport in particular was the right airport. So they're looking at buying land right now, and we're talking to the FAA right now about supporting them, where they're going to be building a manufacturing facility in Carson City, as well as a single hangar for their citation. So why do businesses invest in aviation assets? So aviation is a practical tool for modern manufacturers. It's a way for them to reach customers and suppliers in hours instead of days. It makes it possible for them to make multiple stops within one day rather than having to deal with hubs and having to jump from airport to airport through the airlines, which have this hub and spoke system. You can only go so many places. They need to ship high-value parts, prototypes, and repairs quickly. A big part of this is just-in-time inventory. This is a term that's been around for a little while now, but companies are keeping less inventory on hand, and they're getting stuff shipped directly to them. And this is very big business for aviation. When you look at the dollars that they're spending to get these extremely specialized components from one place to another. They're using Learjets primarily for this because of how fast they are. You see this a lot in the medical industry for things like the transport of an organ. They will, that jet will fly for that one piece, which in this case might be a heart. We see that in Carson City. We see that type of traffic coming in and out of Carson City. That's definitely contributing to the growth of this charter activity. And these companies need to be able to get a nice sized corporate jet in and out right next to where they're based. They can't be based somewhere where they don't have a good enough airport to support that operation. There's might be small electronic components for satellites. It might be, any number of things that are just like super important. They have to have it. They need it now, and they're not going to keep it in inventory because this is something they built yesterday, and then they're going to have it shipped to that facility today. We see that in Carson City with these companies and these manufacturers. Less executives and teams stay productive while traveling, so their aircraft are set up for continuous work while they're traveling. Helps attract and retain top talent who value efficient access. So we're seeing storage hangar expansion in Carson City. This increased demand, just, like we've said, for the corporate customer. The state of Nevada has more favorable business environment than other surrounding states. A single corporate aircraft can generate as much personal property taxes as 10 homes. These aircraft have extremely high values. All storage hangars at the airport are currently full, and we have a very long waiting list. And that's why we're seeing this hangar expansion. This is a more updated ALP than the one we looked at earlier. This has the approved through the fence project, which is on the northeast corner area. This is just a concept, but this project is really unique. The FAA typically does not approve through the fence projects like this. For us to have accomplished this is a really big deal. This will potentially be 30 companies moving to Carson City because of the nature of this project. These hangars are not for your regular hangar storage customer. These hangars are specifically for the headquarters of a business. And us to achieve the approval, just the FAA approval for this, is a really big success for Carson City. This gets denied. The FAA makes it pretty clear in their compliance documents they don't approve this. But we did get approval for this in Carson City. This stems back to the origin of the land that was donated to the city for the development of the airport. They said that the land has to be used for this purpose. And because of that, we're now able to take this to the FAA and say, we didn't buy this land with federal funds. This land was donated for the purpose of supporting these companies. And that is how we got this approval. This goes back to that forward thinking of these families that donated this land to Carson City to make opportunities like this possible. Private investment. So typically hangars are developed with private funding. This can be used for personal use for their own aircraft or as an opportunity to generate revenues for the company building the hangars. FBOs at the airport. So these are businesses, fixed base operators that are based at the airport on airport property that provide services like fuel, maintenance, flight instruction, and more. And we're seeing an increase in that type of activity in Carson City. Stellar Aviation is our newest FBO. And we're also seeing increases in things like airplane washing companies coming out to the airport. Modern hangars are a lot different than the hangars that we've seen historically. As we were saying before, these hangars are being built for the turboprop and jet customer. Noise abatement. So this change in the industry is really interesting. These turboprops and jets, while they may have a higher decibel level right at the airplane itself, they climb at a much faster rate They don't linger in the airspace, and they're going to be a really good partner for Carson City because there's really less of an impact to the community from a corporate jet or turboprop than there is from a small, low-power general aviation single-engine plane that has poor climb performance and that sort of thing. So as we see this transition, we're going to actually see less of disruption to the local community. We have our own traffic noise abatement traffic pattern that's advisory, which encourages airplanes to fly in a manner that is as least disruptive as possible to the community. And pilots like to try to achieve that when they can. It is advisory, so it's not always possible for the pilots to do that. But pilots want to be good neighbors. And we're actually in the process of updating this map. This is kind of what that looks like. We see the green departure and arrival areas, which kind of take the traffic over commercial or industrial areas instead of residential areas when possible. And that is it for that presentation. So I'm available for any questions.
The primary runway 27?
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So the calm wind runway is 27. However, the instrument departure is runway 9. So the jets and turboprops try to use 9 as long as the winds allow them to.
Okay. Mr. Cron?
I was curious regarding the marketing of this. I mean, I did not realize this about the airport at all, so I'm really excited for your presentation this evening. I guess I'm just curious, these corporate people show up by word of mouth? Do you market? How have we ended up with, at least based on your presentation, the quality of companies and corporations that we have out at the airport? How have we got that, and how are you planning to continue that to bring more folks here to Carson City and the airport?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what I do is public outreach personally. So I attend conferences. I go and speak at conferences. I'm on the NATAC committee, the Nevada Aviation Technical Advisory Committee. I'm on the Nevada Aviation Association board, and I speak at these events, and I do a lot of this sort of thing. I go to things like the Western Nevada Development Summit, Development District Summit, where I spoke recently, and I was the only airport representative there, which to me is surprising. That's kind of a trend across the state of Nevada. I think most areas are not fully utilizing their aviation assets, while Carson City is kind of the success story of how an airport should be utilized. And I'm trying to kind of get that message out there a little bit. Like, these other areas could have the same success story that we have if they support their airport, like Carson City has. So I try to get that message out there. And by doing so, I've gotten the attention of these developers. And there is a developer looking at a very big potential development right now that is directly from that. They were in attendance at one of these conferences where I was speaking. I find word of mouth and public outreach to be more effective than anything else. I could print up pamphlets and hand them out at aviation events, or I could just publish ads, but I don't find that to be nearly as effective as showing up and participating in the community. And that's kind of where a lot of our current stuff is coming from. A lot of our current development is because they've seen me out there. Not just this one company, but some of the others that are building now. There's this huge opportunity right now. There's this increase in this aircraft. Hangars built in the past were not built for the modern turboprop and jet. There's a very significant difference in the design, and it's tail height. They're tall. They're super tall. So there's not very many hangars out there for them to fit in pre-existing. So they really need to build new facilities. And by getting out there, they're deciding, well, I want to go to this airport where they're actually doing this public outreach, and they're supporting the airport. And we see that with our federal funding. We're getting more federal funding than any other general aviation airport, and because the FAA sees this too, and that's a competitive thing. We have to compete for that funding, and we've been successful.
Now, you've mentioned a couple of different times the support you get from the city. Could you be a little more specific about how, I don't know, is it the Board of Supervisors? Is it tax dollars? What do you, when you're talking about support from the city, is it just more than go out there and do a good job? You know?
It's really that the Board of Supervisors has been supportive for development of the airport. You will often see cities that fight the development of the airport. And it's because they don't understand the value of that aviation asset. And we haven't experienced that here. And that's really what I'm referring to. I'm not talking about financial support. I'm not talking about any like direct support like that. It's that the airport likes the airport. I mean, the city likes the airport. Whenever a developer comes out to the airport, they're not getting pushed away by the Board of Supervisors. They are accepting and realizing the value of bringing that to Carson City. You know, you look at, I guess I shouldn't name specific examples, but there's really bad examples of cities out there that just, they have this incredible asset available to them and they push it away because they don't understand that's the value. It's going to bring these companies, it's going to bring these employees, these jobs. And Carson City isn't pushing anything away. They're supporting the growth and development of the airport. And that's really what I'm talking about there. Also, emergency response. Emergency response at a general aviation airport is really challenging. You know, we don't have the federal funding that commercial airports have. And you can definitely have situations where sheriff's departments or fire departments will clash with airports, with their local airports. And we don't have that at all. We have, John, our emergency manager for the city, and the fire department and the police department. We get along really well. And that is huge for the airport. I'm able to work with them in a very professional manner. We don't have conflicts like I've seen at some other airports. We work together a lot. You know, I've personally gone above and beyond in this front because I've volunteered for search and rescue for a couple of years. And I did this for a number of reasons, to develop my own emergency preparedness skill set, but also as a form of public outreach to work with the emergency response departments within the city. And so we have the support for emergency response too, which is huge.
I know you have a master plan. What are you looking at for build out? I mean, how much more you've talked about this wonderful asset that we have and how much economic driver it can be for the city and is for the city. How much more room do you have out there? Where do you see the economic engine growing for the city? How much more? 10%, 20%, 50%?
We have a lot of land. That's one of the unique things about Carson City Airport. We have over 40 acres available right now for additional hangar development. So we'll be able to meet the demand that comes. A lot of airports are landlocked and they're just stuck. They can't really take advantage of these opportunities while we are in a position to do that. I don't see us building all of that out. That's a lot of space. Maybe potentially we could see a different use for it, such as a manufacturer that is an actual aviation manufacturer that would have to operate on an airport. There's a potential for that. I haven't seen any interest for that, but we have the potential for that in Carson. That would be huge. I mean, that would just bring jobs and be really good for the city. So because we have that land available, we have some unique opportunities. As far as percentage goes, we have about 65 people on a wait list right now, and we have about 400 airplanes based at the airport. That is about 20% turboprop and jet, 20 to 30% turboprop and jet on that. And our local FBOs have their own waiting lists, and they have more jet customers on their list than I do, primarily because they are the entity that they deal with. Regionally, there is huge demand, and we'll kind of see if the developers are able to build to meet that, and that'll be a limitation of resources for construction and navigating the complexities of building aircraft hangars, which is unfortunately very difficult for the developers to do. So,
Commissioner DeChristopher?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. That was really interesting. This might actually be more for Hope. The fact that you're here tonight tells me that we're already looking at this as something we need to put in, to use Hope's term, one of the jewels in the crown. And I heard you say that you feel the most effective marketing is word of mouth. But are we taking it another step further, whether it's word of mouth or integration into marketing for the economic development of the city, the effort?
Yeah, so my meeting with Corey, really, we have to go back to the preparation of the master plan and ultimate adoption of the master plan. And you'll recall there was a lot of discussion about the city's approach to economic development and that there were different groups pursuing their agendas, but there wasn't sort of an umbrella facilitator, so to speak, trying to bring it together. And the city wasn't really a player on it as well. So I've been meeting with various people to understand from them kind of their approach to economic development. And like you, I thought couldn't believe it. I didn't know all this stuff. I also think something Corey told me, but he did not tell you, is that a lot of the other airports in general aviation airports in Nevada are not run by aviation professionals. They're run by a public works department. So we're very fortunate that we do have an aviation professional managing the Carson City Airport. And I think that's part of the success. In talking with Corey, he talked about referrals to NNDA. So I followed up with NNDA. I said, what happens when you get these referrals? And, is it, maybe what do you call it? You need a warm pass off versus a cold pass off. And so we've had those conversations. And what I ultimately plan to do, I'm meeting with each person kind of by themselves, but then I want to bring everyone literally to the table so that we can understand what everyone's doing. But in the case of the airport, I think the airport, they own a lot of land. So from a planning perspective and land use perspective, we have to recognize this is a big landowner. It is an operation that we've always been in the forefront of. We've said anything we look at, I'm emailing Corey, is this going to be in conflict with the airport? Is this going to work at the airport? And it's not something on the airport grounds, but something adjacent to the airport, so that as somebody's doing their due diligence, we can let them know. And I remember I emailed somebody recently and said, it's not a function of zoning, it's a function of the airport. You can't do that there. And so the airport, I didn't realize it was such an economic engine, so to speak. And so I just thought it was fascinating, his presentation. I wanted him to share it with you all because you do see the hangars that come in. You do see land surrounding the airport, and the idea that it all started as part of promoting manufacturing. And and they're staying with their roots. I think it's just such an interesting story and such a fascinating resource we have.
Mr. Preston?
Hi, Corey. Thank you. I have to say that in the late 70s, early 80s, we ran a King Air. And our King Air that we ran was primarily for the construction company. But as you said, you have to have the employees to justify the plane. And so what we did with it at the time that was interesting is, and I agree with you, some of the airports are run better than others. We were building in Tonopah, we were building in Beatty, into Pahrump, and different things, and having to run crews there with no facilities and running food and everything else in our planes. So I know that that was, really important, and I'm glad to hear that other peoples are seeing that opportunity. My question for you is, Reno Airport itself is under such a big change right now to become more of a passenger type airport. And I know when we talk to them, they're talking about reducing, for instance, the possibility of reducing the footprint of the National Guard and reducing some of the cargo and some of these other things. Is this anything that Carson City can use?
So that's a good question. So that goes back to our role in the NIPIAS. And we're a general aviation reliever airport, and that's what we're designed around. We're not going to be able to change what we're doing as an airport. We're not going to be putting in a big giant runway and getting airliners in there or big cargo jets or anything like that. That's not in Carson City's future. As a general aviation reliever and as things like corporate traffic gets pushed out of Reno, they'll be coming to Carson, or Reno Stead. And Reno Stead is a good airport. That's another good success story up there. No, we won't see like C-130s come in and out of Carson City Airport. We don't meet the safety criteria for C-130 under standard operating rules. They will come and go from Carson City in the event they need to of a deployment. But they won't be operating out of here on a regular basis. So we will continue our role as a general aviation reliever, but as this market grows and they're not wanting to fly in and out of Reno, we'll see more in Carson. Mm-hmm.
Corey, as aside from the airport control zone, and I'm talking now thinking about us as a planning commission, what other things would you tell us that we need to be aware of or need to think about when we start looking at stuff other than just airport control zone elevations and distances?
That is the most important thing.
Okay.
Part 77 is the regulation, the federal regulation that regulates airspace and the protected airspaces. The Title 16, having our own map is helpful, but Part 77 must be complied with kind of regardless of what we define in that map. And Part 77 exists everywhere in the United States.
Mhm.
There's an airspace somewhere. We're kind of unique in that we have rising terrain all over the place. Something close to the airport might get approval while something far away may not, due to that rising terrain. So Part 77 needs to be looked at very closely with any project in the city. And the primary tool for that is the federal tools that are available. They have very good tools that already exist that are easy to use. And I'm happy to help anybody take a close look at it. I'm not the regulatory authority on that topic. However, I can help them navigate it to figure it out.
Well, what I'm thinking is if there is something that we want to consider that's off the approach or end of either side of the runway or something, is there something in our planning that we can say, look at this, go look at this and make sure you're okay?
There is already language in Title 16
Okay,
that specifically states any construction must be compliant with Part 77.
okay.
And I think the master plan and the zoning, we retain that industrial area in the northern portion around the airport
Mhm.
and to create consistency with the airport and avoid non-compliant situations. So, and from a land use perspective. So I think basically it goes back to what you do every day. Every day we're trying to avoid incompatible land uses.
Mhm.
And so through the master plan, we kind of said, here's our intent. And by we try to keep people right away from the airport, make it industrial warehousing, things like that, and avoid schools and, places where people will congregate. And so at the staff level, on a case-by-case basis, we're coordinating with the airport. But I think if you go bigger picture to the master plan, we tried to formulate the master plan in a way that would protect the airport as well and avoid those conflicts.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Corey, thanks. You got to work on your enthusiasm, though.
Well, I thank you. It's a lot of information. I was trying to get through it fairly quickly. I know
Oh,
it's
thank you very much.
kind
It's
of a
very
long-
helpful. It's very helpful.
Presentation, so. All right, well, thank you all very much.
All right. Can we buy an airplane now? Okay. Item 6B, ZA 2026-0045. Discussion and possible action regarding a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors regarding a proposed ordinance relating to zoning, establishing various provisions concerning short-term rentals in Carson City and providing for other matters properly related thereto. Hope.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'll recall the Planning Commission reviewed this item at its meeting on March 25th, 2026. At that meeting, the commission suggested the following modifications. One, modifications to language regarding response time so as to provide the reporting party 30 minutes to respond by telephone and 1 hour to respond in person. Number two, limitations of the occupancy in the case of a party. Number three, limitations on short-term rentals in the mobile home park zoning district, the multifamily duplex zoning district, and the multifamily apartment zoning districts, so that it could only establish there if the current use of the property was a single-family detached home. Number four, incorporating a definition of event or party. And number five, requiring bear-proof trash bins. That's what I understood the commission to agree on. You discussed other stuff too. You talked about that the applicant provide evidence that the transient occupancy tax had been paid prior to renewal. And I'm going to suggest that that fits better in Title IV because the renewal is the renewal of the business license. So I'm going to suggest we put that in Title IV as opposed to Title 18. You discussed the concept of corporate ownership, but I didn't hear a consensus from the commission on that. You discussed parking restrictions, and I advised against parking restrictions as part of short-term rentals because I think everyone has to park lawfully, and it's too difficult for my parking enforcement officers to figure out why that car is there. If the car is unlawfully parked, it can be your son's car or it can be the short-term rentals car. It doesn't matter, it gets a ticket. And you talked about age requirements, and specifically there was discussion about requiring a minimum age of 25 years old to rent the short-term rental, and the person who makes a reservation must be present. But again, I didn't hear a consensus on that, so I did not include that in the changes. The commission also requested detailed data regarding how many short-term rentals exist in Carson City, their location, and their ownership. Because we have not issued any business licenses for short-term rentals, we don't have any lawful short-term rentals. So we don't know where they are. We don't know who owns them. We know we have about 40 to 50 just by looking on certain websites and counting, but that's the best we have. I did provide you with a memo from our assistant planner, Lena Rezick, dated April 9th with the research that she did. You received public comment, and it includes from the Realtors representative, Garrett Gordon. There were quite a few questions about what is a bedroom. And as it's written, the planner who makes the presentation, who gets the case, so to speak, and makes the presentation for the administrative permit to the hearings officer will visit the property and go into the property and identify how many bedrooms based on a on-site observation. Right now, we're not looking to, a bedroom is a bedroom. I mean, if it looks like a bedroom, it's a bedroom, it will be called a bedroom. If there's disagreement between the applicant and the planner who worked on the case regarding how many bedrooms, the hearings officer will take that up during the hearing. Based on that experience, if we feel like we have to better define what a bedroom is, we certainly can do that. But at this point, I'm not going to call, if there's a small alcove somewhere off a dining room that they can fit a cot in, I'm not calling that a bedroom. A bedroom is obviously a bedroom, not just a place where somebody could sleep, but it's a bedroom. Bart had some comments about, how would the neighbors know? And I want to talk about the procedural due process again, because what I'm proposing is that this be subject to an administrative permit, which means there is a hearing. Prior to the administrative hearing occurring, what will happen is there will be an advertisement in the newspaper. It will be advertised on the city's website, the state website, and there will be first-class mail to owners of property within, it will probably be 300 feet, I'd have to look it up, of the subject property, but no less than 31 individual people can be, need to be notified. So the neighbors are going to be notified when the application comes in that there's a hearing. It's the same as what we do for you when you have a special use permit, except you're not making the decision, the hearings officer is. The public can come in at any point in time and talk to the planner who's handling the case, can review the application, they can attend the hearing, they can participate in the hearing. So they'll be fully aware of what's discussed at the hearing and what the decision of the hearings officer is. So that's my response to those comments. In the staff report, I have given you revision language in there that reflects what I believe you agreed on at the March meeting. And you have the findings there as well. I'm happy to go more in detail, but just based on the input from the last meeting, the scope of changes is essentially what's on the board in front of you. And I'm happy to take questions or hear additional comments.
Okay. If we can, I would like to break this into two pieces. The table of permitted uses, I'd like to save till last. And what I'd like to do is just go through the Title 18 Appendix Division 1 suggestions that you have and let us all see if we can come to some agreement as to what those are. There's a couple of duplicates in here, Hope, that
I'm sorry, are you on the staff report, page 2?
2 and 3.
Yes, okay. Where are the duplicates?
Well, under 9, which is where if you look at item C, 9C, the use of wood-burning fire pits is prohibited, gas fire pits may be used. And
Then
if
it's
you go down-
repeated on
You
13.
go down to 13 and it says the same thing.
Okay, it does and it doesn't. One is talking about the content of the code of conduct. So when you post that code of conduct, what are the minimum requirements that it includes or content that it includes? The other is the regulation that says you can't use a gas fired, or any fire pit has to be gas fired.
Okay, well, then number 11 and number 14 are the same thing except for the word disinfection.
I think 11 is for a hot tub and a swimming pool.
Uh-huh.
And 14 is for the home itself. So right now, our health department, if you have, let's say, a hotel, every single hotel has to have a sanitation protocol that's reviewed by our health department. So similarly, as this is a transient use, you have to have a sanitation protocol for the premises that you submit to the health department for the director, her assignees review and approval to show that we're not going to have bed bugs or, it's going to be clean. Secondly, if you have a pool, a hotel, or you just have an HOA that happens to have a pool, that pool is also subject to inspection and permitting by the health department, and they are looking for sanitation protocols. So if a short-term rental has a swimming pool or a hot tub, we would want them to submit their cleaning protocols to the health department for review and approval by the health director prior to the administrative permit, so that those protocols can be included as part of the approval.
And should those certificates be posted or available in the residence?
We could certainly do that. The guest will probably not be the one cleaning the pool or cleaning the premises. It will be.
No, but there should be a notification that says, yes, these have been inspected. Or
Inspected.
certified, whatever we're doing.
I mean,
We're
if
doing an annual inspection. It's just like an elevator or something.
right, no, and so yes, so what will happen is, and actually I met with the Director of Health and Human Services earlier today about the short-term rentals, and we were talking about the role of the compliance officer, because the compliance officer will be the one out inspecting. And she was asking, do you think he'll need some training? I said, I think initially he'll need training, but I think we'll see a lot of the protocols are just repeated. And so if we help with if the Health and Human Services Office trains the compliance officer on what their expectations are in creating these protocols, then when he goes out to do his annual inspections, he should look for that.
Okay, number 9 on the second line,
Yes.
provide a written code of conduct for review and approval by the hearing officer.
Sure. We can fix that.
And the last sentence before we go to A, it says the code of conduct shall include as a minimum A, B, C, D, E, F.
Mm-hmm. And the reason it says at a minimum is because, again, it's a public hearing. The hearings officer is having a hearing. There may be something that comes up or something specific to that particular property that the hearings officer hears as part of public comment, and there's sort of agreement. Oh, we all agree on X.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's put in the code of conduct.
Well, that's why I suggested we say that. It's not in there.
When it says at a minimum?
It
Okay,
just
so we
says-
could add a 16th item and say any other item required by the hearings officer?
No, I would just say as a minimum, the code of conduct shall include as a minimum the following.
Isn't that what it says?
No.
It says
Oh,
at a minimum.
all right, okay.
Okay,
Everybody's right and I'm wrong.
no. Glad you read it.
Sound like my dad.
I
Oh,
yeah.
okay, you drilled me on that one. Let's see what's next.
The two items that we talked about that we didn't, I'd like to revisit. One of them is the age requirement and the other is the permits per legal entity.
I'm sorry. Oh, ownership.
Yes. And,
If you have a consensus.
well, I don't know that we do, but I'm saying I would like to see both of those again, and I'll yield to Commissioner Preston next. Commissioner Preston.
One thing that I would like to see added is just not health and the sanitation requirements for the pools and hot tubs. I would like to make sure that the lights, the electrical and the lights are correct, that the ladders work, these type of things, because those are things that actually become safety issues. And to make sure, silly things like jets create an actual safety issue.
That on the city to do the inspection, but rather if this is where the commission would like to go, because for example, I have a pool. When my pool went in, it was inspected, but I don't have annual inspections happening at my swimming pool. And so we're not set up to do those type of inspections because they simply don't happen. And so I would suggest, if that's where the commission wants to go, that as part of the annual inspection for the business license renewal, the property owner provide some type of documentation that a safety inspection has occurred on the swimming pool.
Well, I think the thing is does the city currently, let's say I have a hot tub or a pool at one of the local motels, or do I have something at Carson Hot Springs or whatever? Is there any kind of regulatory person in the city that actually looks at that to make sure that that's?
The health
Okay.
department does for the safety of the water and the cleanliness, but no, my
Not
building
facilities?
inspectors are not going out. They're out there when it's being constructed, but they're not going out annually or at any point to look at maintenance of it.
Commissioner Crone?
Yeah, going back to what Commissioner Borders was talking about, I think it would be good to have in here that, that as the hearings officer does have the ability to add site-specific conditions. At least that's my feeling. I mean, if you kind of look at what we do, staff will come forward with a recommendation, and we will sometimes add things as a part of the conditions. And so I think the hearing officer might be able to have that, and if there is a specific issue within a neighborhood, that could be then addressed through an additional finding, for lack of a better term, or additional condition on the permit.
I've got it. I made a note.
Commissioner Pazell?
Thank you. Hope, just a quick question. Was I being nitpicky on 9C when I'd suggested a red flag warning issued by the? Okay, thanks. Just that way you're not getting any,
Good.
you did?
It's there.
Yes, but.
Oh, it may not be used during red flag warnings.
But as issued by the National Weather Service.
Oh, okay, I can do that.
That way you don't get into an argument with somebody as to who has the right to issue the red flag warning. And that's probably nitpicky.
Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to kind of circle back around what Commissioner Preston touched on, and that was hot tubs and pools. So, I mean, I've been to places where I've looked under the lid of a hot tub, and I'm not getting in there, you know, or you do get in, and then you're kind of stinging for about a half hour when you get out. So can we make the host responsible for testing that at the beginning of a new, like, say, guest coming in, a checklist perhaps that we monitor something that we don't really become responsible for it. We make the host responsible for it, but it could be like if there's a strike or two, you know, that we become aware of. And it's almost like, hey, if you're not going to maintain this thing, we can't expect, you know, a couple kids to get in there and get their eyes burned because the chlorine's too hot. Things like that.
Right. So I think you're talking about the sanitation disinfection protocol for
Okay.
the pool and hot tub. And so that's in here that they need to provide that protocol for review at the time when they're first getting ready to establish. They have to submit the protocol. And what we can do is at the time of renewal, we can ask for the evidence that's been serviced consistent with the protocol.
It's just about a year in between.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think.
a lot of guests in between there. Right.
No, I hear you. So the protocol may be between guests, you have to do X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
Like in a hotel room, and when it gets cleaned, there's certain things that have to happen.
Or we have the host provide a log, like, you know, Terry
Okay.
said. Provide a log of, you know, maybe weekly, monthly tests. So maybe monthly, I don't know about weekly, it seems excessive, but, you know, whatever protocol is for maintenance of a hot tub or a pool. Yeah, yeah, charming. But I just think it'd be,
No, we can
They're on
certainly
the
have them
side of
maintain a
safety.
log, and and I'm going to suggest that we look at that log annually. I don't think, I can't track on 40 houses when a guest leaves and a new guest comes in.
right.
And I don't even know how many pools, and, well, we might have some hot tubs. I don't know that we'll have tons of pools, but we'll see.
Cool, thank you.
Hope, can we assure that they have some sort of liability insurance?
We talked about the insurance with the Board of Supervisors, and there's not really a benefit to the city for them to have that insurance. It's the owner should be carrying the insurance. And so as a government body, it just didn't seem like.
But if we're
there was a public-
licensing, if we're giving a license to somebody to do this, then are we subject? Or could we be?
We've had those conversations, and it has not been a concern.
Okay,
And the board discussed that at the retreat and did not want to include insurance.
okay. All right. The table of permitted uses. You made the modifications to the mobile home parks, and I think that's fine. That is, I still think this is way too many places, but I don't know what the rest of the commission feels like. I'm at
Page 2 of the staff
page 2 at the
report.
top. Table of permitted uses, where you can have this. Right now, it's everywhere. Is that what we want to do, or what? I don't want to have it everywhere. I'm sorry, but I don't know where the line is. Or if the rest of the commission doesn't care, then I'll
Well,
like
for the benefit of the board, of the commission, at the board retreat, the board had seen this a couple of years ago, and and the discussion was, let's keep it just in like the residential office or general office. Let's keep it in the areas really close to the downtown, and let's start small. And that might be an opportunity to really help some of those older historic structures, and there would be some revenue there. The board, its more recent retreat, said, look, we know we have these, and we know they're throughout the city. And so let's just figure out a standard that we can apply to all of these short-term rentals, have them come in and get their licenses, and have them abide by these standards. And the board did want to broaden the zoning districts where these would be allowed. So that's just background.
Commissioner DeChristopher?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, along those lines of trying to put it within particular zones or districts, when you look at who uses the Airbnb, and let's face it, it's part of the culture now, it's what we do, I think of areas like the Eastern Corridor, where the sports complexes are. I'm imagining that's where quite a few Airbnbs are, because the people who are looking for lodging would prefer to have it closer to the facility, especially when you're on a game schedule. And I do appreciate, giving it some thought after our last meeting, I appreciate that where the board was coming from is, as we saw with Lena's research, right now, apparently, we do not have an overabundance of short-term rentals. So I'm thinking, my thought process on it is, yeah, I can see why they were saying give it a year. With what we have now, don't restrict it to one particular area. And after a year, we'll have some data to tell us whether or not it's been an issue in particular areas.
Commissioner Pazell?
I have to agree with Commissioner DeChristopher. At this point, the horse is out of the barn and we're playing catch up. We have no idea in what zoning districts they are in currently. Given the caveat that, under the next section, add to Title 18 Appendix Division 1, 1.221, right off the bat, it's got to be being lawfully used as a dwelling unit. I think as soon as I saw that kind of reduced the concern I have for some of the non-residential zoning districts being utilized for that now, or as proposed. If it's a lawful dwelling unit now, give them that option. But as I said, right now we're playing catch up. I think if we've got an opportunity to have these people come forward and go through this process, if nothing else, we can document where they are, and then go from that, see if we actually need to eliminate some of these zoning districts just because they're just not there.
Commissioner Crum?
I hope that, as I understand it, there's two zoning districts that aren't allowed, and that's industrial, and what's the other one? Or did I misunderstand that?
I believe residential uses are prohibited in the industrial zoning district
Okay,
only.
Only, so that's the
It
only one.
might not be allowed in public either.
Well, that would make sense, not have it in
Okay.
public.
I can't remember.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this about tourist commercial. And if I recall right, when we went through the master plan,
Right.
we were going to get rid of that. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, it was like, oh, no, there's one spot in town, we have to keep it.
Yeah.
And where is that?
It's part of Sassafras and the Hot Springs, and in that area is the tourist commercial zoning. And if you'll recall, this commission has seen that property so many times because it goes from industrial to tourist commercial to industrial. But the good news is I don't believe there's a lawful dwelling there. So if it's the only area that's tourist commercial, so if you want to remove tourist commercial, it's not going to be an issue.
I'm just thinking just from a practical standpoint.
Mhm.
It to me, it just doesn't make any sense to have it in the permitted uses when it really functionally isn't going to be in there. So
can
I
take
would
it
make, I'd like the commission to consider taking out tourist commercial as well as at least industrial, and maybe you said public is already out, right?
And industrial's not listed
In-
either.
Industrial isn't listed either, or public, so, okay. Just a thought.
Mr. Preston?
Yeah, I hope it didn't, on this, back to this tourist commercial, I thought we had taken that one area and made it light industrial because of the airport use.
We did, and I think it went back to tourist commercial. I can't remember where it is now.
Because I thought that it actually been changed into
Okay.
flex
We
space.
think it's still tourist commercial. It has definitely gone back and forth a couple times over the last 10 years.
Okay, because I think I'm with Vern. I'd like to go ahead and take it out of the tourist commercial.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just take it out. Everybody nod? Okay, there you go. Hope, is there a mechanism where I know, based upon what Commissioner Pazell said, you know, we don't know where they are. If we start this program and say we review it in a year, and in a year we decide that, oh, you know, single family 5 or whatever it is shouldn't be in here anymore, and we take it out, then the only downside to that is we won't have any more in there if we had any at all, and that the people that had a permit are going to be grandfathered. That they would be a non-conforming use.
I
Would
hear
that-
what you're
would-
saying.
would
I
that-
think what we can do is, and I think it's what Commissioner DeChristopher and then Commissioner Pizell said. We don't have the data. We simply have this knowledge that they exist because websites tell us they exist. I can't give you a list of where they are. I can't give you a list of how big they are, how big the lot is, what the zoning is. So I think once we've gone through those administrative hearings, and also we don't know that the folks who are running them, once they have to get a permit, that they'll actually come in and get the permit. They may choose not to, and they may choose to not do business anymore. So I think once we have that data, and I think a year is a good amount of time, because I think anyone who's running it now and decides to make it lawful will be in that year, because I think the board was looking at, if I recall, a 60-day grace period. Then let's see what we have and how it's going and what the hearings officer is hearing as well from the neighbors. Because I think we may have situations like Bart's in that neighbors have been living with it. They've known it's down the street, and they may show up at the hearing just because people sometimes come to hearings, and they may say, oh, we always knew that was there. We didn't know. We don't have a problem. I mean, I think we need the data.
Okay. All right. Any other comments from Commissioner Preston?
Okay, hypothetically, if you go ahead and we have the hearings examiner do that, and there's places like people like Bart and like myself that do have a problem with the ones that are in the neighborhood on the way that they are being run. And if we come to the hearings meeting and we say, they're horrible, they're parked on the sidewalk, they've got dogs, the weeds are 2 feet high, they park in front of our cluster boxes, the trash is out overflowing over the top of the street, and it's done, you know, our trash is Thursday and it's put out there on Monday, and we got bears, and there's no way to contact the owner because they're hidden under all these other things. So if you have enough of those or one of those, can we make it stop? Because in some ways I'm just going to say this, I feel like there's a lot of them out there. They were not allowed. We're not allowed to do businesses in residential areas. This is a business. And I mean, they basically are asking for forgiveness, and we're saying okay. And I think that's kind of frustrating. So that's what I'm saying is if somebody like me and Bart come in there and several neighbors come in there and say this is poorly run, will it go forward, or are you just going to say, pay your permit, these are the rules, and then we'll revisit it? I mean, that's the question.
No, okay, so Heather Ferris and I are the hearings officers, so let's start there. As hearings officers, we sit where you're sitting. We are looking at the findings of fact. The same findings of fact that you look at when you look at a special use permit are the findings of fact that we look at when we look at an administrative permit. So it's going to be very similar to what you deal with when somebody comes in and a neighbor may come out and say, well, I have all this opposition. Here's the list of issues we have. What you do is you first of all, you have to look at it in the framework of the findings of fact, and you can come up with conditions of approval. You may have voluntary conditions of approval that come up as well. We can deny it. You've denied special use permits. It's discretionary. You don't automatically get to do it. It's not you just don't. And so the hearings officer is going to act with the same responsibility as this commission does.
Public comment? Okay.
My name is Bart Carrillo, and I presume each of you have seen what I submitted yesterday.
Bart,
that was-
Bart, get that a little closer to you so the
Sure.
recording can hear you.
Absolutely. Again, I presume everybody's read what I wrote yesterday. And it took a lot of time to do that, but I did it from a resident's perspective. And it's different from administrative position trying to do something. First of all, I'm going to try to hit these points quickly. With regard to insurance, if you license, my opinion as a prior lawyer, litigator, if you license somebody, then you're assuming an obligation. And if you get some inventive attorney who sees something that goes on and the city licensed it and the city didn't protect it, then you have grounds for a potential lawsuit. In my opinion, let's go on. The real problem I have with the response time, I'm confused. You know, the residents or the police force, they see this thing, it's gonna happen over and over and over again, whatever it is. It's gonna take some time before they finally report it. Now, when they report it, then the clock starts apparently in terms of the city representative who gets that call, then contacts the owner's representative, and then the owner's representative has 30 minutes to make a phone call and or an hour to get there, as I said in my paperwork. You know, it just, and in what authority, what enforcement does anybody have at that moment to stop the music, stop the motorcycles going up and down the street, stop the conduct that is interfering with the neighbors' ability to enjoy themselves? These people don't have any connection to the community. I'm talking about the transient people. The problem exists that from a hearing perspective, somebody makes a complaint to the owner says, no, it didn't happen that way, and it goes to a hearing. You're not gonna have an integral part of the information because the transient tenant who's gone. So you have somebody complain, I complained they did X, Y, and Z, and the owner said, no, they didn't. And then you're at a loss because you don't have the people that were there that did it or didn't do it. I mean, it's gonna be a hellish situation for a hearing officer to be able to go through that thing. I believe in starting small, then going big. The current status, again, my paperwork, the current status is that the building code, zoning code, specifically says no in SP 12s like my house, okay? But it's okay in the industrial areas. My position would be put it into effect in the industrial areas so that you can then look at it and you have a smaller place to get the data you want. And if it works or doesn't work, you can make that correction there, then go big to the entire city. I think that it's unfair to myself and other tenants to be the guinea pigs. And now I'm out of time.
Okay, thank you.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Thank you. I ditto on the comments of Mr. Cohen. And my other concern is that if it wasn't legal, and it isn't legal yet until we decide we're going to have them in this community, there's no repercussions. There's no considerations. When I did dog licensing, I went door to door and asked if they have a present dog on the location and is that dog licensed? And if that dog wasn't, then it would be an insist that they do go ahead and get a license within a reasonable amount of time. In this case, we're not going door to door and saying, well, we've pretty much figured out through looking on the computer that you probably have a bed and breakfast type situation or a short-term rental. There is nothing there. And I'm going, okay, now you're deciding whether we're having them in town, or have you decided just to say we already have them, so therefore we have to regulate them? And I'd like it to be clear. Are we having them in town? And if so, there are regulations. And if those people have been illegal, that there is some repercussion, whether a fine is put on the new application to become legal, or if there is a consideration of an extra inspection because of that they then are responsible to pay for. Is 40 new understandings right now, is maybe we have 40 in town that are not licensed. Do we have enough of those individuals putting in applications and getting permits to really consider 2 more employees or more inspectors? Or are we starting with a group that we want to get licensed and regulated that will cover those fees? Because the community is going to be paying for those employees, and Hope and those that have to regulate those employees and all of the things that come with this. So the decision today to me is, are we going to have them? And if so, how do we relate to those that are already there? And then what regulations we want them. Thank you.
Okay. Danny, did you sign in? Oh, you did before. Bart, did you sign in? Anybody else? Public comment? No, well, when we get there. Okay. All right. Last chance for public comment. Okay. All right, group, I still have 2 issues. Age and corporate ownership. And again, I will relate my experience having done this with people, parents renting apartments or houses for kids at spring break and graduation, and there's one mother that says, "Oh, it's okay, I'm going to go off to the spa," and leave it, and there's nobody there but minors. And I would like to see that not happen in Carson City. So I would like to see that whoever makes the reservation, it has to be 25, and they have to be there. And that was my push on that. The other is on ownership. You know, there's in our pony here with some other regulations and some other communities, they talk about how many permits are given to one particular entity. And I would think 1 or 2 is probably enough. I don't think you ought to be able to come by 5 houses in Carson City and rent them all out. Because if you look at what the people before told us and the monies they make, me and 4 of my friends could go buy a house and have a mortgage and pay for it and still make money. And I don't want corporations to do that in Carson City. So those are my 2 issues. Commissioner Cronin?
Well, as far as the first one goes, I tend to agree with you on the minimum age of 25 to rent, and that person needs to be present. I think having that would, in some cases, address Mr. Carrillo's concerns about the craziness that could go on. It's just another way of having a responsible adult or someone there that is responsible for the behavior of the people who are there. So I tend to like that. I would tend to support that, as we move toward maybe consensus or not consensus on that particular item. As far as corporate ownership goes, in a real world, or not in a real world, but in my world, ideal world, maybe my Pollyanna world, I would love to have all these Airbnbs to be locally owned. I just don't know if we can do that. I just don't know if legally we can do that. And that's what my concern is. It's not that I don't disagree with the thought and the concept that, you know, people locally are investing in properties or improving their properties to get money to provide an amenity that's done here. I just don't know how, from a city's perspective, you can enforce that legally. But I'm certainly willing to have a discussion on it. I just don't know how you pull that off.
Okay. Commissioner DeChristopher.
Thank you. Yeah, regarding the age, I do agree with the 25, for one of the reasons being that if anything ever did happen that was actually of a criminal nature, I want it to be someone that can be held accountable opposed to a minor. It's one of the reasons parents in the past have done that because they've been able to skirt out of the responsibility, indicating that they weren't on site. So make the person who is on site 25 or older. Regarding the corporate ownership, I mean, once you go past one property, you're typically doing an LLC or corporate just for your own protection. I know that's how I've handled it in the past. And I would love to be able to have it be specific to Carson owners. But I don't know. I'm with Commissioner Cron. I don't know. I've been thinking about, and perhaps we can get a legal opinion on that. How would you prevent that from happening? And the other thing being, we all know how it works. If someone finds, and I'm afraid that may be the case with the Silver Oak area, once they find that it's a hot spot, even if you told them, okay, beyond 3, you're considered, right, a corporate, they just open up new ones and continue to operate as they do. So I don't know if it would actually be effective, but I want to circle back to a point about liability insurance. I understand and appreciate where the Board of Supervisors came from that, but I think it deserves a legal opinion because if the city is going to be issuing a certificate, they are to some extent telling that person who's renting that Airbnb or short-term rental that they've met these requirements. And I'm sure there's a lot of, I'm not an attorney, so I'm sure there's a lot of minutia they look at in between that, but I just think it deserves a legal opinion.
Commissioner Pizzell.
Thank you. I don't disagree with the age limit. I think 25 is probably a fair number. I think I share the concern about corporate ownership. You know, our house is in a trust, but you know, other people may buy houses for their own use as a corporate. I think your focus really is on the number of houses owned versus corporate structure. So I'd be careful about that. And with regards to liability, I don't, you know, basically now I think you have to have homeowners insurance in order to maintain a property to actually continue to or the, you know, you'll lose ownership of that house. So, you know, I don't know about the liability issue. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Preston.
All right, first of all, I agree that there should be liability insurance. I think that that's very important. We have liability insurance on our cars. So if you're going to go ahead and put somebody in a house and you're saying that this is a safe environment, I think that that should be a requirement. I agree with the 25 for the person over 25. I think as far as trying to figure out ownership is going to be very, very difficult. But I'm going to go ahead and jump in here with both feet. I bought my house in Silver Oak because I had CCNRs. I bought my house knowing that, yeah, there might be a rental next door, but it might be a rental that was going to be there 6 months or a year with a family or whatever. And I also am a realtor, and I have been for all my life. But the one thing is, and people have the right to do what they want to with their property. Well, I have the right as a neighbor to say, I don't want this in my neighborhood. I bought a house that had CCNRs, that is single family homes. That was not rentals. I would like to see it go back to doing residential office, the general office, neighborhood business, retail commercial, general commercial, and the downtown mixed use. Especially these, or if these people want to have it out on their acreage, that's one thing. But we have these different properties that actually, I bought it so that I would have the conformity. I bought it so that I would have that reliability. So, like you said, I have a problem with it being in my neighborhood if I have CCNR, so, thank you.
Mr. Peters?
Thank you, sir. I agree with the age limit, 25, that seems responsible. And they could be liable for any damage or whatever. Liability insurance, I think I'm with Commissioner Pizell. If you're gonna have a mortgage on your house, you're gonna have liability insurance. Whether we have to have the guest have a renter's insurance in policy in place, that's up to, I guess, the review board. And as far as like say out-of-state ownership, I don't think we can put a handle on that. When they come in front of the review board to propose, you know, their idea of getting a short-term rental, we can't say that you live in South Lake Tahoe on the California side, sorry, you can't do it. I mean, I think we just open ourselves up to a can of worms on that. And the 30 minutes on a phone call response and then an hour to show up, I mean, are we protecting the guest or are we protecting the neighbors? Is that how that works?
The intent there was to make sure there was a responsible party, a responsible person who would respond and could address the issue. So it's really for the benefit of the neighbors.
Got it. And so maybe what we do is we like say go a 300-foot or however the parameter would be of like say those people would have the information on that managerial person so that Mr. Bart here could call somebody, you know, the on-site or the person that's going to respond. The owner, they live in Novato, so they can't do anything from where they're at. But if there is supposed to be an on-site or roughly someone in the neighborhood, a manager, then they would be able to come over. I mean, the owners from Novato, they're going to make a phone call and say, hey, you guys better be good or otherwise you don't get your deposit back. They might say that, we don't care. But if you have the manager come over and say, hey, you know, this is an illegal issue, parking on the sidewalk, you know, park in front of the mailbox, God knows what, they have more weight than an off-site manager. And if the neighbors have that number, I would imagine that manager, if they report back to the owner saying, hey, we got problems here, you know, that would probably fix a lot of things.
How would we do that?
The note I made said that we would provide people in the noticing, we would have the host, the owner, business owner, provide people in the noticing area with the responsible party contact info.
I think
That's what he said. I don't know if there's
I
consensus.
think that's a good idea. I think that's a wonderful idea. Good? Okay, so 25 is in. Corporates is out. Insurance is a question mark. And I don't know that we're necessarily talking about liability insurance. We're talking about umbrella insurance, you know, all kinds of things. And, you know, a smart person would have an umbrella policy on his house if he was going to rent it out like that, but not everybody's smart. So I don't know if I like the idea of having some sort of a legal opinion, but I think we can press on and recommend that still be looked at. The other thing I liked that we talked about was the fact that we could come back here in a year and see how we did.
Okay.
You know, nothing, you know.
No, I think that's a good idea. So once it's implemented, so what I have, unless there's more discussion.
Oh, wait.
Oh, there's more discussion.
Commissioner
Okay.
Christopher, I'm sorry, I missed
A
your.
clarification. Regarding the insurance, the reason I was saying I think it merits review is the liability may actually be on the city side. So it's not just a question of what the homeowner has, it's for the city's sake as well.
Understood, and those conversations have occurred, just so you're aware.
Well, and also, I guess the question would be if somebody has liability insurance on their home, they could make the city an additional insured. That's a form. Yeah, I mean, that's an easy fix to your question, and if you have regular homeowners insurance, you can add an additional insured on anybody, and it doesn't cost anything. Is that okay? Yeah. Is that okay? All right, yeah. Yes. No.
So what I have is on the table of permitted uses, you'd like to remove tourist commercial from the list. That was consensus. There were other comments as well, but that was the only thing I heard everyone agree on. On number 9, it will be modified to say review and approval by the hearings officer. On 9C, we will add as issued by the National Weather Service. On 11, which is the hot tubs and the pools, we'll have them, the owner will maintain a log of a maintenance log. Commissioner Cron suggested there be a wording in there that the hearings officer can add conditions. What you are not seeing right now is the description of the administrative permit and the due process, the procedural due process, and so on and so forth. So I don't think that's necessary, because as part of the administrative hearing, there will be the findings of fact, and the hearings officer has the right to add conditions. So I don't think we need that. I think it would be redundant.
And that, I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. I just
Okay.
think that each home is going to be in a different neighborhood, and each potential rental could provide or could generate some different unique circumstances that may need to be addressed.
Sure.
Just like we do here at the Planning Commission.
Exactly,
So-
because a special use permit for one thing may work in one neighborhood, but not in a different neighborhood.
Correct.
They're
And so
different,
as
yeah.
long as the hearings officer has that ability.
Yes,
I'm not sure we need it in here.
yeah. Heather's nodding, that we're good, okay. Okay, so then the insurance, you all are going to recommend that there be an insurance requirement with the city added as additional insured. And you'd like to add the age requirement of I have it written here, hold on.
25 years.
Age requirement, the minimum age 25 years old to rent the short-term rental, and the person who makes the reservation must be present. And you added to provide people in the noticing area with the responsible parties or the responsible person's contact information. That's all I have.
Okay. We all, except Terry and I aren't happy with who we're including, but I. No, we're not. Oh, the 1-year review.
It's not, well, I think that's sort of like what we did with the master plan where, well, okay. Planning Commission will review in 1 year. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I understand what you're saying, but I think this is important enough. We need to do it. Okay, Commissioner Preston?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to review in 1 year, not only would we like to review, how many, but how many were approved and how many were denied. I think that that's going to be important, because what you're going to do is when you set it up with the administrative hearing, you're going to hear from the neighbors. And I think the neighbors are actually going to have a better input on what they want in their neighborhood.
No, it's not for us. We don't have to do that.
So I'll just add that the plan for communication to the board, it won't be part of the ordinance, but I'll communicate to the board that the Planning Commission would like to review this ordinance and the efficacy of the ordinance and any other issues associated with the ordinance, as well as all the data, 1 year after implementation.
Right. Okay. Somebody want to make that a motion?
You can reference the summary of changes that Hope put on the record.
Yeah. I move to recommend to the Board of Supervisors approval of the proposed zoning code amendment based on the ability to make the findings as outlined in the staff report, subject to the amendments as spoken to by the Community and Economic Development Director at this meeting.
Is there a second? Okay, seconded by Commissioner Preston. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. How about if we take a 5-minute break? All right, we'll come back here at 5 minutes after 6. That's a 10-minute break.
Okay, 6.
item 7A, the applicant is having car trouble getting here, so we're going to delay that, and we'll just go to 7B. 7B is discussion and possible action regarding an application from Juniper Ridge Construction for a special use permit to allow for the construction of a detached accessory dwelling unit greater than 50% of the primary living area and greater than the maximum size of 700 square feet on property zone mobile home 12,000, located at 2828 Lukens Lane, parcel number APN 008-211-19.
Thank you, Heather Ferris, for the record. The subject property is zoned MH12 and located on the west side of Lukens Lane, approximately 400 feet south of East Nye Lane. The applicant is proposing the construction of a 975 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit. An ADU is a conditional use in the MH12 zoning district and must be consistent with Division 1.4 of the development standards. In this case, the primary residence contains 1,248 square feet of living space. And per Division 1.4, an accessory dwelling unit would be limited to 624 square feet unless additional square footage is approved with a special use permit. So the request before you this evening includes the request for the additional square footage for 975 square feet of living space. There's a complete analysis of Division 1.4 included on page 3 of the staff report. And with the exception of the square footage, the ADU will meet the standards. There are 6 findings of fact the Planning Commission must make in the affirmative in order to approve a special use permit. Staff has made all findings and is recommending approval subject to the 6 conditions of approval included in the staff report. With that, I'm available for questions and the applicant is here as well.
Okay. Questions for staff? Heather, I know we had this discussion before, but I don't know, maybe I'll just ask the applicant. It looks like a 3-bedroom house to me. And I don't know why we need a 3-bedroom house for a mother-in-law. But we'll talk about that. Any other questions for staff? Is the applicant here? Can you come forward, please? Hey, are you
Thank you, Mr.
familiar
Chair.
with the conditions of approval in the staff report?
Yes, sir.
And are they acceptable to you? Are they acceptable? Are they okay for you?
According to my special permit, yes, sir.
Okay. Why do you need a 3-bedroom house for a mother-in-law?
Good question. So
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
the more the better, right? With you due respect, first of all, thank you for implying this information. So I'm the general contractor and applying for the special permit use. So basically, my client is merging his parents into this property. That's the purpose of using this property
Okay,
ADU.
can you move the mic a little closer?
Yes.
The tape won't hear you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the purpose of using the special permit is because it's the mother-in-law, will be purposely used for his parents to, spend the rest of their time
Okay,
and
Okay.
use it.
so it's not for one person, it's for his
Yeah.
folks. Okay.
Correct.
That's fine. Is there a shed in the backyard?
Yeah, there is one, but
Is it gonna stay?
well, our goal is to improve the property, make it look spotless. So we're gonna get rid of it.
Okay, and what about the 2 cars?
Those are my cars. I bought them.
I just wondered how you're gonna get them out.
We have a way to get out. There's enough space on the property.
Okay,
to
all right.
haul them out.
Okay.
Yes.
And my last question is the trees, you're gonna have to take those trees down?
We're trying to protect the trees as much as we can.
Because they look nice. I mean,
Yeah, they're really nice trees. They're from Nevada, so
Okay.
I do not want to touch them.
okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I had a couple real quick, if you don't mind.
Is your screen working?
Yeah, I've got my hand up, according.
Oh, I don't have a screen.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Heather, could you go back to the actual picture of the home, please? One of the things that one of the conditions in here, or maybe not conditions, but one of the requirements in here is to have the ADU match the architectural features of the home. And the finish on the home is proposed as cement plaster, so I'm assuming it's a stucco finish of some kind. But I don't see stucco anywhere on the house. So I guess I'm curious, there's a conflict here, at least in my mind. It looks like we've got asphalt shingles on the roof. It looks like we're doing asphalt shingles on the ADU. So I guess that's really the question is, are we going to have, what's going to take precedence?
So from the code standpoint, it says be compatible with the materials must be compatible with the primary residence. I don't know if they have plans to improve the siding for the primary residence. There is the incorporation of the siding in the gable end, which is consistent
With that, yeah.
with that.
But the majority of the house visually is going to be, at least according to the elevations, a cement plaster finish of some kind. So I guess that's really what I'm asking for. I don't see that as being compatible architecturally with, looks like some sort of a board and batten finish on the home. So I guess I'm just trying to say is, I don't see it as consistent or compatible with, personally.
May I do?
Yes, go ahead.
So yes, sir, the finish looks like a stucco and different than the original footprint, but we intend to match the existing architectural. If we're gonna improve one, we gotta improve both. But at this moment, I think it's more convenience for us to match the existing architectural for costs. But yes, we're willing to match the same architecture. It's LP siding is what the original footprint has, and it's got a new skin coat of paint that it was previously painted by other contractor.
I was just seeing some inconsistencies there. The other question I had was on your site location. Any particular reason why you cited it there? You got a very big lot. And why did you particularly cite it there?
As the client expressed to us, a little bit of privacy for their folks, and it seems ideal in that corner.
Okay.
We're gonna bring a power line down, so the post is located on the other side. So it makes more sense to have it in that location for us, for construction purposes.
Now, Commissioner Borders talked about the trees that were in that area, and I noticed them as well. And I think you actually refer to it here in your write-up. The intent of this addition ADU is to improve the quality of the property and give the neighbors an open view and not object to their view as the property sits back north to the northwest. I didn't quite understand that statement. Could you explain that statement a little more for me? I didn't quite understand what you were saying. That's why I asked the question about the location.
Yes, sir. So basically, as you can see the view of the property on the first photo, there's like 5 trees in front of the house. So technically, the neighbor in front of it, if it wants to see views to the mountain, it's already blocked by the big trees. And the other side of the trees, are not blocking anyone. Obviously, our elevation pitch point is no more than 20 feet. So at that point, I'm not blocking anyone's view. And if anyone gets to see this new architectural, it will be appreciated by the clients because we're not doing just a Home Depot shed. We're actually building a new building. So that's when I meant it would bring a new look, the same architectural style. We're not trying to change anything like from what they do the other developers, So we're trying to maintain the same architectural in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff or the applicant?
I do.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't have a TV, so,
Oh, I'll raise my hand.
all right.
My questions are kind of more on the construction side. So that was a double wide manufactured home, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and then was that always on city sewer or was that ever on septic?
No, sir, it was always it's now in city sewer and so is water.
Cool. And then did you shoot the grade to know that you're going to have some downhill fall from that place to underneath the unit? Is that where you're going to tie in?
Yes,
If
sir.
For waste is underneath?
Yes, sir, we do have more than 2%, so we should be okay.
Cool. And so do you have to bring in fill to raise that ADU to get grade out of that?
Very little. Yeah,
Okay.
obviously I had to,
Yeah. I
cut the
did
pay
think
dirt, new
level
pad,
didn't-
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
Level
So,
won't work, but
no, no, not at all, sir.
there are options.
We're trying to avoid that cost for the client.
Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, we have systematically looked into the civil grades. I do have a survey company that works under me, and also have an structural engineer under me and a civil engineer. So
Cool. Great.
definitely,
That answers that question.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you. I appreciate that.
All right.
my pleasure.
I'm sorry, any other questions? Okay. Public comment? Okay. Can you let? Press the button until the green light comes on.
Thank you.
Move it close to you.
All right. Thank you. Tanya Brown. I live at 2907 Lukens Lane. And the photograph that you just shown up there, that is the house. You mentioned a double wide. That's a stick-built home. Okay, okay. And also, that picture was taken while Tony lived there. She passed away in that house. She was a senior citizen and passed away. So right now, it has a new roof. It's painted. It looks brand new. Okay, so I just want to clarify that. I and others, I'm here on behalf of some of the concerned citizens on our street. We are in opposition opposing this for reasons, and I'm going to get through this as quickly as I can. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My concerns today are not about zoning. My concerns today are about zoning, density, and the long-term character of our neighborhood. Our street is a single-family residential area, and about half or more are residents are seniors, including some single senior women who live alone. This neighborhood was designed and zoned for one household per lot, and that stability is part of what allows our older residents to feel safe and secure. The property in question already has at least one family household living in it, and only one person there speaks English. If an additional 700, but now that you're saying 900, foot is approved, it's very likely that even more people will move in. This raises concerns. We have an even higher density multi-household situation on a lot that was never intended for it. And when neighbors cannot communicate with people living around them, it becomes harder to address safety issues, resolve conflicts, or maintain a cohesive community. Daniel, the owner, he owns this house, plus he owns 2 other homes on the street, practically side by side. Okay, this is not about the residents, it's about the fact that the proposal fundamentally changes the zoning intent of our street. Allowing an additional household on a single-family lot sets precedent that could reshape the entire neighborhood and undermine the sense of safety that our senior residents rely on. We've residents who have coming onto their property, taking pictures of doors and windows, coming onto their property and staring at them, and none of them speak. I'm sorry, they don't speak English. And again, please don't misconstrue my comment. This is not about race. My concern is strictly about the safety issues already happening on our street, and for clarity, my family is Hispanic. I respectfully ask that the commission consider the zoning standards that protect single-family neighborhoods and recognize the impact of this added diversity would have on a street made for seniors living alone. And seriously, a 3-bedroom home for a mother-in-law's, my personal belief, I think something else is going on with it, but I don't know. Like I said, we met the new neighbors. They seem real nice, but only one person spoke. The others don't speak English. You're going to put a 3-bedroom bedroom back there. Is he going to rent it out, or is he saying it's a mother-in-law's? I don't know. but there are several of us who are opposed to this, and some are in favor, but there's some other issues that had come up, that they had concerns about, the safety.
Ma'am, your time's up.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Okay. Group?
I'll move to approve LU 2026-0054 based on the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report.
And I'll second.
Now, Commissioner Preston seconded. I heard her first. I don't have my little screen, so I have to use my ear. All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Oh,
Heather, could you, just as far as further discussion, maybe, there was some comment based on the public comment that said that this house doesn't belong in this zoning, I'm paraphrasing. But based on the staff report, you said the only thing that really has triggered this special use permit is the additional square footage, is that correct? Did I understand that correctly?
Well, two things. So in the MH12 zoning, ADUs, accessory dwelling units, are allowed subject to a special use permit and compliance with Division 1.4. In those development standards in Division 1.4, there are maximum square footages. But there's also the ability within Division 1.4 to ask via a special use permit for an increase in the square footage. So he's asking for not only the ADU, but the increase in square footage to 975 square feet.
Thank you.
is that okay with you? All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Seven A?
We can either do 7A or we can do 7C
Let's do
and
s-
then jump back to 7A, and Heather
Okay.
can do her two items
Okay,
back to back.
let's do that. Seven C, LU 2026-0052. Discussion and possible action regarding a request for the Carson Montessori Charter School to amend an approved SUP LU 2025-0250 to increase the maximum number of students at the school from 89 to 150 at the Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada on property zone PR located at 1840 and 1870 Russell Way, APNs 002-101-92 and 002-101-90.
Heather Ferris again for the record. On July 30th of last year, the Planning Commission approved a special use permit to allow the school to establish a campus at the Boys and Girls Club. The current SUP allows the school to utilize approximately 5,630 square feet of space, as well as their outdoor areas, including the adjacent field. And the space currently accommodates 89 students and 8 teachers. The applicant is now requesting an amendment to the SUP to allow for an increase in the total number of students and square footage. The school would continue to have access to the larger playground and the field area between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. As outlined in the staff report, staff is recommending modifications to condition number 6 of the original special use permit to reflect the change in the number of students as well as change in busing and parent pickup and drop-off needs. There are no other proposed changes to the school's operations. Staff has made all findings and is recommending approval subject to the 6 conditions of approval that are included in your staff report. We have received public comment, and that is also included in your packet. Additionally, just to put it on the record, while it's not related directly to this request, Jen Budge, the Parks and Rec Director, did want me to put on the record this evening that while the Montessori students through the Boys and Girls Club currently utilize a portion of the MAC for PE on a limited basis, The MAC is at capacity and will not be able to accommodate the anticipated increase in the Montessori students. That really has no impact on this particular request, but since they do currently utilize it, she did ask that I put that on the record tonight. With that, the applicant is here and may wish to address the commission, and I'm available for questions.
I got a new one and it didn't work. All right. Questions for staff? Commissioner Crone.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about development engineering's comment related to the drop-off and pickups. And Stephen, would that be you as far as how that goes? Why, the staff report touches on it a little bit, but obviously the increase is going to make, apparently with the additional students because of this extra condition that's in here, conditions of approval, you're seeing that the potential conflict could come up with the amount of students we're increasing too. So could you explain to me a little bit about what was your thinking behind adding that 12 pickups and 12 drop-offs condition?
Stephen Pote with Development Engineering. And Heather, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that the amount of pickups and drop-offs were proposed by the applicant. Okay. But specifically, we're looking at it needs to be consistent with what they're proposing, because if you have more pickups and drop-offs, then you're going to get closer to the traffic impacts that you would expect from a school, which this is what they're proposing is much lower. And so we'd need to take a closer look at what those impacts really are at that point.
Because at this point, the amount of potential traffic isn't triggering an actual traffic report. This is something you're working with the school on to make that determination. Is that correct?
Correct, and that's based on their proposed operations that they're busing the kids in.
Kids in. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Applicants here? We told you a year ago 89 wasn't enough, but nobody believed us. Okay. What about the issue with the using the MAC? Is that going to be a problem for you all?
Sarah Lobsinger for the record. No, at this time we had worked with the MAC on developing a schedule so that they would know when we would be using that facility. So we plan to work with her and making sure that the increase in enrollment at that facility does not interfere with their schedule.
Okay, and the amendments we have to the conditions of approval are acceptable to you?
Yes.
Okay. How many kids are left at the home campus?
I think we're at 180.
So you have 180 there and 150 here?
Well, we're not even going to be quite at 150, but we aimed a little higher, so we wouldn't have to come back. But yeah, I think we're going to be at 120 at Boys and Girls Club.
Okay, so it's almost half then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Go ahead.
I'm going to go back and pick on that 12 pickup and drop-offs. I guess I just get concerned. Are you going to monitor that as far as that goes? Because I'm just thinking is that if I live 2 blocks away, and it would be easier instead of me tracking all the way up to the industrial area to drop my kid off to then have him bust back down to the Boys and Girls Club, I would very easily be tempted to want to be one of those 12 people to drop that off. And if you do it on a daily basis because you live 2 blocks from that thing, now you've reduced it. So I'm just concerned with the monitoring and the backup on the Northridge Drive. Those are the kind of concerns that I have, and help me work through that.
So feel free to add in, but so we are going to add another bus route. So the bus will be taking the majority of the students. We also base that number on data, just how it looks this year, and how how many parents are picking up from that location. We also have several students walking at this point. So we really just base that number off of what we're seeing and what we think for this new group coming over.
This is Allie Cooper for the record. Also, we have a lot of fun in the really early morning at the regular campus, and parents are allowed to drop off at 7:30. So there's another hour of time where kids can come and be dropped off early at our original site. So for some parents who might be closer to Boys and Girls Club, it opens up their time to get to work at 7:30 because they drop them off with us. And we do a big morning assembly and dance and sing every morning. So a lot of them don't want to miss that.
Anything else? Public comment?
Thank you, Denny French, Carson City, thank you. My concern is that the people that want to utilize the Met then will have to schedule around the school's use if in fact they're able to use it by dividing the group up so it doesn't all get to the Met at once, because there will be a teacher still at the main facility, I'm presuming. But those type of consideration, the Met is a public type situation, and now everybody's scheduling differently to adjust to things. And I'm certainly not against Montessori. When I went to school for child development, had the opportunity to deal with Montessori, and I'm very pleased with what I saw in my experience. So I'm not against that. I'm just, the considerations that are being put upon that Met are, I think, the public should be a little bit more involved in the considerations on that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comment? All right. What's the board's pleasure? All right.
Okay. I move to approve LU 2026-0052, an amendment of special use permit based on the findings and subject to conditions of approval contained in the staff report.
And thank you, Mr. Peterson, for seconding. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Don't come back again. Yeah. We moved the Boys and Girls Club out to your old school. All right, are we 7A? All right, LU 2026-0047, discussion and possible action regarding an application from Ethro Paulo Acuna for a special use permit to allow for the establishment of a tattoo parlor within the existing tenant space on property zoned retail commercial located at 1950 North Carson Street, APN 002-081-01. Heather.
Good evening, Heather Manzo for the record. So this is an application for a tattoo parlor, which does require a special use permit per our land use table in our code. The tenant space that they're looking to occupy is about 640 square feet, so relatively small. And it's located on the southeast corner of North Carson and Winnie in that shopping center that's there. So on this slide, we've got the yellow identifying where that tenant space is within that shopping center building. And then on the right-hand side is kind of a floor plan for that smaller tenant space. So what's proposed is what's necessary to meet health code requirements to get a license through their department. And then the tattoo station. So essentially it's intended really to occupy or be occupied by one tattoo artist at a time. So the applicant is available if you have any questions for him. Staff is recommending approval. I didn't receive any public comments on this item. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
This unit's vacant right now, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay.
Real quick, Heather, special use permit is for the tattoo parlor, but he also talks in his application about being a retail space for art. It sounds like the applicant is very artistic and works with not only body art, but also with other types of art that he wants to display and sell. Is that okay within this special use permit, even though it's specifically stating tattoo parlor versus tattoo parlor and retail space? Is that workable?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So the only trigger is the tattoo parlor itself. Retail uses and the display of art is allowed within the RC zoning district. So that did not trigger a special use permit.
Thank you.
Right. Is the applicant here? You come forward, please. Push the button until the light turns green.
Paulo Acuna, hello.
Okay, you don't have to hold it. There you go. There are 4 conditions of approval in this report. Are they acceptable to you?
Absolutely.
All right. Anybody have any further questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there any public comment? Why'd I look at you? All right. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the special use permit based on the findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report.
All right, is there a second? One of the ladies, I heard both voices. Thank you, Commissioner DeChristopher, for seconding that. Yeah, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, motion carries. Thank you. You had to be here.
Glad to be here.
All right.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
On what? Okay.
I just have a question in regards to the special use permit. The special use permit form has seemed to change, and it no longer requires the owners to sign off on the special use permits?
Oh, it does. So we have had over the past year or so issues with somebody sending fake claims for money to our applicants using our agendas and the applications that are in them. So we've started where we can remember redacting the second page, which has the applicant information and the owner signature.
Okay. 7D, LU 2026-0055, discussion and possible action regarding an application from Affinity at Carson City LLC for a special use permit for one residential development within a non-residential zoning district for 204 age-restricted multifamily residential housing units and 2 establishment of a 52-foot tall building which exceeds the maximum allowable building height of 45 feet, located within the Lampa Ranch North Specific Plan Area Zone General Commercial, located approximately 2,000 feet to the south of East William Street on the southern terminus of Gold Dust Way, parcel number 0100041-85. Heather.
Thank you again, Heather Manzo, for the record. So this site was the subject of a different special use permit a couple years ago. This is a completely different applicant and a completely different use. So what's before you this evening is a request for a multifamily use, which is a really unique design, to be honest. So what the applicant has proposed, and I'm sorry the site plan's a little busy, is that 4-story building that is located along kind of the central and eastern portion of the property, and then a clubhouse, pool, things of that nature. And then also these duplex units that are located to the southwest and north. And so in total, there's 204 units that are being proposed, and the applicant is requesting the special use permit, number one, to allow for this use in this commercial zoning district as our code requires, and then also because that 4-story building is proposed to be 52 feet. It does exceed the maximum height limitation for the GC zone without the approval of a special use permit. So I did want to just throw this slide up here because the applicant did a great job of identifying the different aspects of code and what's being proposed, and what their, code requirements versus what's being proposed. And I'll just go through this super quickly. So again, they're requesting that 52-foot tall building. That minimum side setback, the one that's got the most detail in there, shows that they're proposing 170 feet from that east property line. What code would require, if it's adjacent to residential zoning, which it is a 20-foot setback. And then what code says is if you're adjacent to single-family residential, there's additional 10-foot setbacks for every story above a single story. This project is adjacent to multifamily zoning, which has a single-family product being developed upon it, but it would be subject to a 20-foot setback. So using the most restrictive interpretation of our code, where we have a multi-story building adjacent to single-family residential development, there would have been a maximum of 50 feet setback required for this project. The applicant's proposing over 3 times that distance from that east property line. And between the building itself, which is kind of H-shaped or I-shaped, capital I-shaped, and that east property line, there's going to be landscaping, parking, access ways, more landscaping, and then the property line. And if I remember correctly, where Monroe and Matterhorn comes together kind of in that lower triangle there on the east side, there's only 4 residences that are located close to this project, and all the other ones are located to the southeast. So I don't anticipate this proposal having a major impact on the residences that are going to be living, or the residences that are adjacent to this site. All other portions of the site are adjacent to a future or existing school site to the south and west, and then to the north, we've got the Gold Dust West property. So I did provide the proposed elevation for the 4-story building, and then I completely did not put in the proposed elevations for the duplex units, but they are in your application if you wanted to review those. So with that, staff is recommending approval. I didn't receive any public comments on this item, and we do have the applicant available to address any questions from the commission. Thank you.
Are these for sale or for rent?
It's a multifamily project, so it's for rent.
For rent?
It's not subdivided,
Okay.
correct?
So there's no CCRs?
There wouldn't be any CCNRs. They'll probably have their operational rules for the
Okay.
tenants.
One of my 2 favorite things when we look at projects like this are snow and trash. And in the past, we have asked that they get a ability to serve letter from Waste Management. You know, on one of the other projects we recently did, because of the tight turns and where the trucks have to go, and I didn't see any trash bins out there, so I'm assuming they're going to use individual pickups. But I would like to see as a condition of approval some sort of a will serve letter from Waste Management. I know they do it, but I would like to solve that problem now instead of after everybody moves in.
Okay, so I don't know that we normally get like a will serve from Waste Management. What I'm hearing you say, though, is that you want Waste Management to review their plan for disposal services and submit that with their permit application, so we
Correct.
know that they've
Correct.
been reviewed.
Yep.
Absolutely. And the applicant is very aware that they get to do the trash enclosures throughout the site. It's a conversation that we had.
Okay. And snow is the same thing, but that's another issue. I
Snow,
didn't see any place to put snow.
correct. So the applicant is over parking the site, and there is a requirement for the snow storage as we review the permit request. And it is something that I did not ask the applicant to specifically identify on their plan, but they can speak to where they plan to have their snow
Okay.
stored when that is necessary.
All right, these are questions for staff. Commissioner Cron.
Yeah, just like Commissioner Borders, I have my own, when these big projects come in, I have my own focus. And it happens to be the landscaping, and I'm going to piggyback on Commissioner Borders' concern with snow. The last thing you want to do is do a beautiful landscape and then end up dumping snow on top of a landscape. So I think it would behoove them, as maybe another condition, is to take a look at snow storage and their approach to it, and if it impacts the landscaping at all. And maybe not, but it's just it's one of those concerns. It's just in the middle of a blizzard, nobody cares. They just got to get snow off the parking lot and it goes everywhere and things get destroyed. So I think there's some relevance to that. The other thing that concerns me when it comes to a landscaping plan of this size, and I love the concept of the product, I really do. But I'm just concerned with the proximity of the homes to the east, and I'm thinking that I'd like to see a little more larger landscaping put in along the east and southeast side. From a caliber tree standpoint and an evergreen tree standpoint. Again, minimizing visually, and it's not from the standpoint of, it is from the standpoint of initial installation, but also as time goes on and the evergreen trees grow and the tree canopies of these larger trees on the project site become more and more of a visual barrier to the height that we're going to be talking about here. So anyway, that would be one of the things I think for the commissioner's consideration is in increasing the size of the landscaping specifically on the east and southeast side of the development. I think our regular developmental landscape standards would be fine throughout the rest of it. So.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Preston?
Okay, I think my concern is going to be the same that it's always been. Is there now an access or easement through the Pinion property in the Gold Dust West to Highway 50 East?
So the specific plan requires that access be provided. They're showing they've got two primary access points. They've got one going on to Monroe down in the southeast corner of their site, and then they have one going to the north. Their traffic study relies upon that access going to the north. They did provide a memorandum of understanding from the Gold West property, which it looks separated when you're looking at it from a constructed standpoint, but the Gold Dust parcel actually extends far beyond the west side of their driveway and has multi-tenant buildings there. So it's one property owner to the north where they're showing their access. So they are conditioned to provide access to the north to East William Street because their project 100% relies upon that. The applicant did provide a letter committing to that requirement, acknowledging that that's just a primary access point for this development. So they will not be going to construction without that. With the MOU, staff felt satisfied that we could move forward through the special use permit process because as a property owner, I don't know that I would want to commit to something if it wasn't going to be built. So I think that's a conversation for the applicant and the owner to the north to have after this is approved so that they can start putting money and time into what that looks like and get those agreements in place before permit.
As I recall, that last time what it was is there's actually two owners that own that easement. That there was the Pinion Group that actually where the bubble tea place is, and then there's the one that is Gold Dust West. Is there a memorandum with both property owners?
There's only one property, and the way that I see it split is the Gold Dust building is identified as one entity, and the rest of the Gold Dust property is another. So there's no easement currently there now, but they do need to have legal easements designated by the legal property owners, so they will get that before they get a permit.
Okay, the other thing that I have a question about too is, again, on this particular parcel, is the one that we have talked about, that this would be the one that made sense for the rest of the property as far as Lampa to the east and to the south to access back, because originally when this was platted, it was supposed to go have that driveway through. And it's gone to the Board of Supervisors on several times to say, there should be a way out of this Lampa area in there back towards Highway 50. And I do recall, if I understood this right, was at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, they said it did not have to go all the way through, but they did want something in the event of like fire trucks and stuff from that one side, coming from that part of that part of the area for those single-family residential ones too.
Are you speaking to the master plan amendment that the board recently saw? I can speak to that. I sat with the board. Before I do that, I'm going to point out condition 14 says that prior to the issuance of a site improvement permit, the applicant must demonstrate that public access and utility easement for, it says the word potential. I want to remove that word potential. It's for a future connection to East William Street. There has to be a connection to East William Street. This project doesn't happen without a connection to East William Street. I'm sorry, Heather's shaking her head.
I think we'd be referring to condition number 11 when we're speaking to access to East William
Okay.
Street from the project, or the emergency access.
I'm just-
Condition 14 refers to something entirely different, on-site.
Gotcha. The net of it is, one, the Board of Supervisors, what went before the Board of Supervisors, and it went before you too, as part of the master plan amendment, is because of the improvements that exist at Gold Dust West and the access way and the parking lot and the buildings where like the subway used to be, making that a lawful right-of-way and meeting the city's standards was going to be virtually impossible. And so what the Board of Supervisors said is we will amend the specific plan so that it does not have to be a road, but they have to have access to William Street. And Heather's working on this. She and I talked about the MOU, and quite honestly, I said I don't care about an MOU. And the reason I said it isn't that it's not a good step forward, it's because it's not legally binding. So we called the applicant up and said, look, you know you need access to William Street. We know you need access to William Street. We're not going to tell you how to get the access to William Street, but you need it. You need that driveway. So will you just amend your application and say you know you need access to William Street? And so the applicant did that, and that's what Heather's alluding to. So what the board did was they said, we know we probably can't get the right-of-way, but access is very important, and we have to have that. So I don't want anyone to think that access to William Street is a question mark. It's crystal clear in their application they have to do it, and that's consistent with the action the board took, and the board said access to William Street is very important.
Okay, I think what my question is the area that has been put out there as single-family homes. Originally, that was all supposed to be one owner. And it was all supposed to be one road. So sitting on this board, we have told, the neighbors that were existing that it would not be the obligation to be on Robinson, Solomon, and Fifth. So as this is here, that yes, this benefits this project now, which has a higher density, but the people that are in the single-family homes are still going to end up using those other spaces. They're not going to be going through this project because this is a gated project.
That is a correct statement. This is gated, although it will have emergency access, which is what is critical. But I hear what you're saying. But I believe, and Heather can correct me if I'm wrong, that everything about this project is consistent with the specific plan.
I will concur with that statement. And in addition to that, condition number 14, should stars align and conditions change to where access is available to the north of this for full public access, condition number 14 sets aside some space to where that could be met by this project. But what this project is doing is meeting the requirements of the specific plan as it was amended a couple months ago, as well as meeting code in terms of how traffic is distributed from the existing project and for this project itself and emergency access and all of that. Staff took a look at code requirements and the specific plan to make sure this project fit within all of the requirements, and we're recommending approval of the request.
Okay. Commissioner Bazil?
Thank you. That explanation cleared up a couple of the questions that I had. I think really the only one I had left remaining was, I think the Carson City Fire Department condition with the emergency access, and then I think it's on page 8 of the staff report. They're talking about if the East William Street and Matterhorn emergency access is not available at the time that the proposed age restriction project moves forward. The question I have is, can they, in your experience in dealing with the fire department, is it that they can start the site improvements, but they can't have combustibles on site? Or are they just saying, nothing can go on until such time as that access or that connection has been made? And again, I apologize. Just on some experience, it depends on the jurisdiction. Some locations, they won't let you start any site work at all until such time as they have full access. Others allow you to do some start work, but won't allow you to have combustibles on site until such time as those
Yeah.
accesses are secured.
So the access of, so Matterhorn is under construction right now, and you might have seen if you've driven in Fifth Street, they actually put the big, basically drainage bridge in already, and they're in the process of backfilling that and setting it all up. So the next step of that will be to break the sidewalk and make that connection to Fifth Street. So they're almost there. What the requirement was when I spoke with the fire marshal is that as it is right now, we just have essentially exiting onto Solomon from the entirety of Lampa, which met all the requirements when all of that development went under construction. We've kept our eyes on that as well. However, with more homes coming online, with phase 2 having been approved for single-family development, the SPA is about ready to build out. So the fire marshal said that 2 means of access is absolutely essential. And so emergency access will need to be finalized going out from Matterhorn onto East 5th Street so that emergency access is available before combustibles for phase 2 or for this occur. Or the applicant will need to provide alternative access until such time that the 5th Street access is in place. So the fire marshal just said 2 means of access, we need to have them, in place before this goes to construction. And so that's what that condition reads.
Okay. Commissioner DeChristopher?
Thank you. I don't know if we have it available to put on here. I'm going to have a question for Stephen regarding the utility plan. No? Okay. I'll walk you through it the best I can. As Chair Borders said, we all kind of come from our area of expertise, and I'm the fun one because I have an insurance background. One of the questions I had is, this is a high-density project, and I noticed in the utility plan, the VC waterway, of course, runs the parameter, and there is an intersecting sewer line in that area. Given, I know it's common to have, in our area especially, to have a level 1 for fault activity. But knowing that we have that in this land area and we have that intersection of the waterway and the sewer line, I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about that.
Stephen Pote with Development Engineering for the record. So the level 1 that Commissioner DeChristopher is referring to is, it's a soil classification map. It's a regional level map, and it's actually quite a large portion of the city that applies to. So something we're pretty used to seeing typically in geotechnical reports that get more fine-tuned and are more site-specific. We get construction recommendations based on soil types. Typically, those just affect the foundation of structures. In my professional career, I have seen geotechnical reports affect underground utilities. I haven't seen it in Carson City. I will say that the sewer main in question it's an existing trunk line. It does cross the creek. It's quite a bit lower than the creek, and that channel was constructed with, if you remember Capitol Crossing, the single-family homes that are for rent, but it's a subdivision. So when that channel was constructed, they included what are called check structures or check dams. It's just a very shallow dam, essentially made of concrete with a steel rib inside of it that prevents the creek from eroding down and getting to the elevation of the sewer, or really just going down in general and causing erosion issues. So the sewer main is protected in that way.
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Commissioner Crone?
Yeah, another question. The location of this is adjacent to the high school or reasonably close to the high school and their sports fields. You've got lights and both for the football field and the baseball fields. I'm just real concerned about the impact of those lights on the residents, and is the applicant aware of that impact?
We can ask them.
We haven't asked them.
We haven't asked them yet.
any
Okay.
questions yet.
All right, we'll get there then.
All right. Any other questions for staff? All right. And the applicant's here.
Yes, hello,
There are-
commissioners.
There are 15 items, there are 15 recommended conditions of approval, or have you read them and are they acceptable to you?
Yes, we've read them and they're acceptable.
Okay. How are you gonna fight over the covered parking?
Believe it or not, so first off, my name's Joey Lonsford. For the record, I'm the developer here, and I've got a couple members of my development team here as well. Our product, Affinity, for those who aren't fully familiar, so this is active adult 55 plus age restricted housing, essentially. We've done 30 communities throughout the Western U.S. We're based in the state of Washington, but we have kind of been looking at Carson City from a demographic perspective for a while now and think we're going to be a great fit here. A lot of our design is stemmed from those 30 communities and iterations over time. And the covered parking in particular, while this may not be a Washington climate, we've done a fair amount in Colorado, and we've done a little bit of, throughout the Western U.S., New Mexico. And so that's based off of our portfolio and what we think that, typically what our residents are going to require and request.
Are you gonna allow golf carts?
We don't typically allow golf carts. Usually those parking stalls are used by cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, your design is very similar to Air Force Village. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's in San Antonio.
I don't think we are.
But they have
Yeah.
bungalows and they have
Yeah.
a high rise and they have all the same kind of amenities, and it's the same kind of community.
Yeah.
It's all retirement.
Mhm.
But they found that they had a lot of people, if you live in a bungalow and you wanted to come up to the clubhouse, it's just as easy to get in your golf cart as it is to take your car.
The bungalows are a newer design for us. So I don't know if we don't have CC&Rs. Now we have rental agreements. And so maybe we would consider, if they can fit it in their driveway. I don't think we'd necessarily be opposed, especially for, if
Well, you have more than enough parking.
We do, yeah.
And if maybe if you didn't have some of those covered parkings, you'd have a place for snow.
Yeah. I wrote down snow on my notes about 5 times. So,
and we do have some designated places. I don't think it's shown in that site plan, but one of our site plans in through the landscaping areas, on the architectural plan, we do show some areas. So we're aware, and I believe working with our architect, we met the square foot requirements, but it was in landscape areas.
Where is your dumpster going to be for the high rise?
So we do use trash chutes with compactors inside, and so the bins will roll out to a designated pad location on trash pickup.
Okay.
So otherwise, they're inside the building.
Yeah.
With compactors.
Yeah, I'm familiar. Okay. Any other questions for applicant?
I got a question for
Go ahead.
staff. We're Manhattan.
We're done with that.
I'm sorry, huh?
Go ahead.
I missed it. I missed the boat. Not the first time. Where Manhattan hits East Fifth, is there going to be any kind of traffic control there? Or just a stop sign approach to get onto East Fifth?
Development engineering, Stephen Pote for the record. It'll be stop controlled for now. There is a condition of approval for a pro rata share for a future traffic signal there, because as the area develops, there will be a need.
Gotcha. Now this is for the applicant. So the Excalibur that you got to pull out of the stone is getting Gold Dust West access.
Mhm.
That's going to be what's key and critical. And I see that that's a gate. And so who has access to that gate? Tenants? Do tenants have a card that they flash and they can get in and out of that?
They do, yeah.
Okay.
We
and then-
we expect our tenants to use, existing tenants to kind of, I would say primarily use that just from an ease of access perspective as opposed to driving through the rest of the master plan, but we wanted both points of access.
Gotcha, because I'm looking where those guys are going to head out of there, like on Robinson,
Mhm.
and go to Robinson to Salomon during school.
Yeah.
That's going to be a zoo. It's already crazy at 7 o'clock, 7:30, 2:30 to 3:30. It's insane. The four-way stop at Solomon and East Robinson
Definitely.
is crazy. So that's going to send them probably out Matterhorn, I believe, out to Fifth,
Mhm.
or send them through that narrow road through Gold Dust.
Yeah, again, knowing our residents, I'm assuming it's going to be the path of least resistance, which is
Right.
going to be Gold Dust. So they'll have fobs for that gate, and we've been in touch with Gold Dust owner as well as the Pinion Strip Mall. And again, condition of our permit is to
Get access
get
to
an
that.
access easement. Yep.
Gotcha. Cool. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
If you're 55, you don't get up at 7:30.
No, I'm 66, and I still sleep in.
Commissioner Crone?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Well, first off, again, I mentioned earlier, I like the product, I like the idea. We did hear through the master plan process that Carson City really doesn't have, an age-restricted, very few, I think Quail Run may be the only one in town, but very few. And so I wish you well on your product. I think it'll do well here in town. So hopefully welcome to the neighborhood. The big question that I have though is the lights at the soccer at the high school football and baseball fields. Again, this is something you're going to have to deal with if your tenants don't like that light, but it does present in a residential setting. It does present a challenge when you have those lights on till 10 or 11 o'clock at night, depending on what game's playing and what's going on. So are you planning to address that in any way? Is that a concern of yours?
I would say yes. We'll certainly address it. I think it will depend on, we'll be fitting those out with blinds and particular windows, and so will we consider that a factor on the west side of the property? Probably, and maybe we'd consider advanced landscaping along that side too, just in case the lights are an issue with residents. So, because we don't want residents to A, not rent, but B, leave. So definitely going to be a factor. I wrote that down. So.
Okay, and then you just touched on it, is the enhanced landscaping. I think there is some value to that as a mitigation measure related to the additional height you're requesting. I think it's a 4-story building. Am I not? Is that
That's correct. Yep.
From the elevations. My particular concern is on the east side and the southwest or southeast side, or the east side and the southeast side, up against the residential properties there. I just think that additional, not only at installation, but also over a period of time, a visual buffer, I think, would be very helpful in separating, at least visually, the residential homeowners from your property. And what I would consider, or at least offer for consideration, is that you'd use a minimum of 2-inch caliper trees, which is in your plant list, you're using mostly 2-inch caliper trees. But I would go to a 10-foot evergreen tree versus a 6-foot as part of the enhanced landscaping. Would be my suggestion.
Commissioner DeChristopher.
Thank you, Chair. First, I just wanted to say thank you because this is much more creative than we typically see, and I think it will do very, very well, especially the duplexes, gotta say. We don't have enough of those in our town as it is, so to see it incorporated, it's a wonderful thing. And the golf simulator. I just wish I was 55 or up. Right. Don't laugh that hard. No.
I'm not gonna touch that one.
Right. Yeah. Don't, please don't. No, but it is. So kudos to you. I absolutely love that. The special use permit obviously is for the high rise, the 4 floors. Is that also typical when you say that you've been using this plan, this design in other cities? Is that pretty standard for you to have the high rise plus the bungalows and?
The bungalows are a somewhat newer product for us.
I'm sorry, you did say that.
Yeah, it really depends on how much space we have. The majority of our product is just the single building. And so we're kind of expanding to bungalows now, given, again, site size, but also demographics within a city. A lot of our success has been in the single building aspect from a safety and security perspective. When someone drops mom off, they want someone at the front desk, which we do have all the time. And so our product has been primarily focused on the single building. It's also, for from a community perspective, we are, I know we listed out our amenities in the SUP package, but we're heavily amenitized. We don't want our residents hanging out in their rooms. We want our residents using the amenity spaces, walking around the building. You want it to walk in and you want it to feel like you don't want to feel lonely. You want to feel the community. You want to feel social. And so we've actually built our product mostly the single building 4-story products.
4-story.
And that height is typical for us just because our first floor, we have kind of like that big entry, just higher ceilings. And then the 2nd through 4th floor are more standard floors. So that 54-foot height with the roof comes from that first story just being a little bigger as a, more of a lobby entryway.
Thank you. That explanation's helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Preston.
There's just one suggestion I might make for you too, is on your entrance off of Gold Dust West, I'm looking at your gates. And for the number of units that you have with our different things like snow, like the light that's over there on Highway 50 and so forth, you might consider opening that a little bit wider. And the reason I'm saying this is that my son lives up at the summit, and they have a Nova up there, and they have about the same number of units. And they will back up quite a bit because of the lights, because of the other things that are going on in that area. And if you have one gate going like this, instead of one gate and another gate, ingress and an egress, because if you've got somebody out there trying to, access the gate and their fob doesn't work and they have to try to bypass it, that's going to back up really, really far. So.
Oh, it shows 2 gates.
Hmm?
It shows 2 gates.
No, but it shows 2 gates to go like this. But see, what I'm saying is one for ingress, one for egress. There's 2 separate gates. That doesn't show that. That shows one that goes.
Typically, they open at the same time.
Yeah, they open at the same time. So you're going to have people going in and out at the same time with the clearance of the gate. What I'm saying is if you have one to let people in and one to let people out, that it actually is a little bit better. I mean, that's something that we have found that has worked in some of these more congested areas.
Mr. Peterson.
Thank you. So I think what you guys are doing is a great idea. Active 55, that's awesome. Keeps them busy. They have things to do there. That's a really great idea. As far as egress and ingress, I think, we kind of already touched on all that. But since you guys are doing the duplexes and something away from your center project, I kind of have an issue with the height. Out there's nothing that tall. Nothing. Gold West Est, it's 2 stories. If that, I think it's just a single story with
The motels are 2-story.
Yeah, but so we're talking twice as high. And it's super visible from the freeway. I mean, when you're on 580, it's all that area out there right now, single family, those 2-story houses that are out there, great. This thing at 4 stories is going to be really, really noticeable, you know, and it's going to fire up, I think, some of the residents around there, you know, that didn't expect that. So, I mean, I'm thinking compromise. If you guys are going to spread out a little bit and do the duplexes and things like that, you know, maybe we take a story off. Maybe we stay with that 47 feet instead of 52 or 54. You know, I mean, it's kind of a, you know, compromise there. If it works, you know, it's just a suggestion from me. But personally, I mean, I think, and I would probably speak for a lot of the people that live in that area, to look at 50 plus feet out there is going to be like the Washington Monument. That's just in a nutshell. Thank you.
On your 4-story for water, are you pumping it up there or you using city pressure to go to the 4th floor?
We'll do booster pumps if it's necessary when we'll get the water calculations, but typically it's,
Yeah,
I guess I can't say what.
You know, we used to split it at the 3rd floor. You use city water at the 3rd floor, and 4 floors and above was pressurized. So, I just I agree with you. I think I looked at it. I got written down here. It's too damn high, but I was trying to find a way to shorten it. It looks like your houses, your rooms on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor are 9 feet ceilings. You know, you could cut a foot off and cut the slope of the roof down and still have 4 stories if you wanted to. But you know, if you have to put a pump in to pump the water up and everything else, you may not want to do all that. You know, from a construction standpoint versus a return on your investment. But I would like to see it lower. Really, I don't know how to do that. You know.
Yeah, did you mention a number? Yeah, I worry that, you know, if we cut 4 feet off by, you know, making our building less efficiently designed, which again, I understand your point.
Well, if we could take 7 feet off, it wouldn't be a problem because you'd only have to be here because of the zoning.
I think we're not here to design the building for them.
I know.
We're here to consider the application in front of us. If we're upset about the height, then that should count in your vote, but you know, the application is in front of us. Like I said, we're not here to design the project.
Right.
That was staff's, I'm sure, having worked on that side, you go and you meet with the applicants, you discuss with them what the potential issues are going to be. Then they come back with their application and you work through it. But, you know, we're looking at a special use permit application because of a height issue. So
Right.
if you don't like the height,
I don't like it.
don't vote for approval.
Commissioner Crone?
A question for Heather. With the water usage, we haven't talked about water usage overall. Is this going to kick in some of the growth management issues related to water usage, or are we under that requirement?
So Heather Manzo for the record. So in terms of water usage, this falls under a residential use. So if they were to pull all of their permits in a specific year, it will, you know, take off that number of units for that year, but it doesn't get reviewed separately aside from the residential unit count. And then a point of clarification for building height, because I know Gold Dust was called out as being 1 or 2 stories. It's actually a 3-story structure. And those 4 residences that are to the east of the project, they're all 2 stories and I think about 30 feet tall. So an additional point of clarification, the stuff to the southeast, that triangular parcel, that is open space that's not going to be developed with residences. And then everything to the south of that is a school site. Thank you.
Commissioner Brazil?
No, I said my piece.
Oh, okay. Then you pushed your button. Okay. All right, I'm sorry. It was my fault then. Any further questions for the applicant or staff? Is there any public comment?
Denny French, Carson City, and I'm definitely 55, so this would fit me, Phil. The deal is, for me, the height was an issue, and that seemed like a very petty thing, 7 feet difference, but the floorage, the height of the building in its entirety is a problem for me. Also, I was concerned, I'm really glad that it's fit through the idea that trash will be considered, and the emergency equipment seems to be okayed as far as it being able to fit, but I'm going, holy cow, to evacuate this location with only 2 entrances, exits is hard for me. I can see where they could add another place at the end of the streets and such if it was just a matter of stepping out of the property. But I'm opposed to the height, and I'm also opposed to the idea that they're only paying a very short, small little bit of whatever the traffic signage will be. And I think that should be increased by more than 1.7% of the cost and 1.4% of the cost, and I may have those numbers wrong. So I want them to pay for whatever traffic considerations that will have to be put in place a little bit more. It seems pretty light on this, and that if they use a third location to open, then that should be considered as well. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comment? All right. Heather, did we resolve the issue of the 2, of making the changes that you and Hope were talking about? Are we set with where we are, or did we make?
So the conditions as they're presented are good as presented. I did hear additional conditions coming from you and Vern that I jotted down.
All right, you want to tell me what you got?
Be happy to. So Vern had noted that he'd like to see a minimum 2-inch caliper for deciduous trees and a minimum of 10 feet tall for the evergreen trees along the eastern side of the project. And then you had mentioned that you wanted to see a condition requiring that a trash enclosure waste management plan be approved by Waste Management before the permit's submitted.
All right. Are those 2 acceptable if we add them?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Motion?
I'll move.
All right.
I move to approve the special use permit based on the findings and subject to the conditions of the approval contained in the staff report, with the additional 2 conditions as outlined by Heather for the record.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. 7E.
Yeah.
ZA 2026-0051. Discussion and possible action regarding a recommendation of the Board of Supervisors regarding an ordinance relating to the elimination of required on-site parking on certain properties located in redevelopment area 1, an area generally surrounded downtown Carson City and generally extending to Mountain Street to the west, Route to the east, Colbert to the north, and the intersection of Stewart and Carson. Intersection of Stewart and Carson Street, and providing for other matters properly relating thereto. Hope so.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a recommendation to amend Section 2.3 of the Development Standards, which is the appendix to Title 18, General Parking Requirements. And the recommended language is on the screen to say on-site parking is not required for properties in the redevelopment area 1 when the property is less than 1/3 of an acre in size, improved with a building, and used for a non-residential use. This provision only applies as long as redevelopment area 1 has not expired. So redevelopment area 1, which I'll show you the map, was created on February 6, 1986. In general, it comprises the area surrounding the downtown. So as we talked about at your last meeting, when you directed me to initiate this amendment, there's a lot of small lots, a lot of small houses there. And this redevelopment area will actually expire in January 2031. The objectives of the redevelopment area include strengthening the local economy by attracting new and expanded private investment in the area, create new employment opportunities, increase the city's tax base, and expand public revenue to be used to improve the quality of life for the people of Carson City. So as I told you in last meeting in March, I was approached by two different business owners, totally separate. One over on Curry Street, and Lauren is that property owner who's here right now. He has a business that he's looking to expand to do a better job for his clients. And to accommodate that request, he would have to take out the landscaping. It's a small lot with a small house, and that's been converted to a non-residential use. He would need to take out all that landscaping and basically pave it over with a parking lot. The other example was over on John Street behind the Bank of America. Somebody's looking to change what was initially a house, then was a daycare, and they want to make it now a bar. They would need to park the entire front, even though there's plenty of on-street parking. So we would be compromising the aesthetic of these small properties, as well as driving up the cost for redevelopment when there's adequate parking on the street. And these are downtown, sort of adjacent to downtown areas. So that sort of was the impetus for this idea to change the code. Of the 817 parcels that comprise redevelopment area 1, 210 of these parcels are a third of an acre or less, improved with the building, and utilized as a non-residential use. In the staff report, I have reviewed the findings of fact, and I have made those findings in the affirmative. So I am recommending that you recommend this amendment to the Board of Supervisors, and I can answer questions.
Questions for staff? Terry? Commissioner Preston, you have a question? Oh, okay.
When I look at things that say extending to Mountain Street on the west, and then I'm seeing here that Mountain Street really doesn't go all the way through. I'm trying to, it goes through this, it goes through St. Teresa's property.
The description was intended to be general in nature, because
Okay,
it was
yeah,
very,
'cause I'm trying to
given
figure-
the shape of the redevelopment area, it
odd.
was very difficult to describe it.
Oh, okay, that's like, I'm looking, going, this doesn't make sense. Okay, thanks.
All right. And then, is there any public comment?
Yeah, patience sitting through all this.
Yeah.
My name is Lauren Wooldridge. I'm one of the business owners that's trying to expand my building that I own on Curry. So we have a 900 square foot building. It's a physical therapy primary care clinic in Carson. So I'd like to expand the building, not really for patient volume, but just for the patient quality of treatment. So right now we currently have 3 physical therapists, and I could hire another physical therapist with the current building that we have for patient care. Ultimately, the expansion of the building would be for gym, waiting room, and another bathroom. It wouldn't really increase foot traffic for patient care. So on this matter of the expansion, we're limited on parking, and yet the building isn't really intended for increased foot traffic patient use. So it'd be nice to be able to stay where we're at. My family's owned this building for 30 years. Stay there, expand the building, and keep the business here in downtown Carson.
And this will solve your problem?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right. Group, I need a motion. Thank you, Commissioner DeChristopher.
Make the motion.
She said
Oh,
she
she
would.
said she would, all right.
She said
Go
she
ahead.
would.
Okay,
Okay, fine, fine.
I move to recommend to the Board of Supervisors approval of the zoning text amendment ZA-2026-0051 as presented.
You may second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. All right. Staff report.
Okay, Mackenzie, of course, sets me up with my report to you. So we'll do this first. Building division's been busy. Our total valuation as of April 28th for the month of April was over $20 million in permitting. So valuation year-to-date's at 57 million and change. We had 31 housing starts in April as of April 28th. 7 were single-family detached, 24 were multifamily units. So the multifamily is the Ryder multifamily project on 5th over in Wampa. They did the site improvement permits quite a while ago, but they hadn't gone vertical. So we've had 85 housing starts as of April 28th for 2026. You know what you did tonight, so we'll skip that. Code enforcement, we had 41 cases opened, 147 cases closed. The cases closed is a little bit of a big number because we had a lot of cases opened last month because people didn't renew business licenses. So a lot of those businesses maybe are no longer conducting business, so they were able to close those. Code enforcement is also proactively working on illegal vendors, and they're working swing shift, particularly for people setting up where they serve food and they don't have health permits. Yes.
Can I go back to your last statement of 147 closed, and some
Yeah.
of that might be businesses that have closed permanently?
But not all of them.
Okay, I'm just going like,
no.
oh my gosh, that's an awful lot.
No, it's just sometimes somebody would get a business license because they're going to come and do a project in Carson. It could be a construction. It could be a contractor from Dayton coming in. He finished his project. He's not doing business in Carson anymore. He doesn't have a client here. So we had 48 new business licenses issued, and that's in April through April 28th. Upcoming special events, because business license issues the special events. On May 2nd will be the Mother's Day Fair. It will also be Wine Walk that day. The next day is the Cinco de Mayo Festival at Brewery Arts Center.
Shouldn't
May-
that be the Cinco de Trio?
May 9th will be the Mother's Day plant sale. May 15th is the bike ride, Stentina Pay Dirt bike ride. Engines for Angels is on May 13th. That's a first-time event for it's a nonprofit for a certain illness that one of the children has. May 30th, up at the Eagle Valley Children's Home, is 80 Years of Heart, Hope, and Home. And May 30th is the Rotary Capital City Brew Fest. For your next meeting, what we have on tap for you is a little lighter than tonight, so thank you for starting early tonight. We'll have a special use permit for a marijuana facility, and that's due to the change of ownership. They're non-transferable. We'll have the abandonment of right-of-way on Research Way and the special use permit for St. Teresa's Church. So I don't think I'll add any extra stuff.
The St. Teresa's Church is the one that.
I'm sorry,
we had
St.
before.
Teresa's School. It's a school,
yeah.
yeah. And, yeah, that's all I have.
It's not. Are you going to talk about the special thing you're doing for businesses? It's not on there.
Right.
And then the other one is the on May 13th, the Chamber of Commerce leadership opening up Governor's Field.
We don't, okay, so what I report out on with the special events are things that get a special event permit. So, but Commissioner Preston's correct. As part of economic development, our department is teaming up with the Chamber of Commerce for Small Business Week. And I believe it's on May 4th, is going to be an event in the morning. I think it's 10 to 2, I can't remember. What time is it? It's around that. And anyway, it is on May 4th. It's here in this building, and it's for any small businesses. And I'll be doing a listening session, which starts at 10 o'clock. And for any small business or even a big business who wants to come and let me know any of the challenges that they're having in Carson City. And there'll be different booths set up with people who can help small businesses. So we're doing that in conjunction for Small Business Week.
Any commissioners? One more? Okay. You remember.
Yeah, I have one more thing, is I don't know if the city is aware, but years ago when they went ahead and did their thing with Spectrum, they were supposed to have a local TV channel. And people have they can actually go on their computer, but some people don't have their computers. And up until last month, I actually paid for boxes on my TV, and now I have the new internet TV. The new internet TV does not offer any local channels for Spectrum. And so the public channels that used to have, we had 3 of them, they have been completely and totally wiped out.
Okay, I will pass that along. Thank you.
Anything else? For the good of? All right. Can we adjourn? Can I have a motion? Oh, no, not yet, not yet. Public comment. All right. May I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Commissioner DeChristopher. We're adjourned.